I'm not a part of your system anymore.
Yeah.
So he, right in his mind, okay, you used to have a driver's license, and you wouldn't get off of that.
Yeah.
So he told the sergeant, I don't think it's who he say he is. That idea, I don't, you know. So I go, listen, you start. Here's my appellation.
Yeah.
My appellation. Your appellation. Yeah, this is what I travel with.
Yeah.
Right? And the sergeant was going to say, I'm going to give you a ticket and release.
The travel is that the nationality.
My nationality card. So I told him it's my ID, my.
Yeah, but that's everything. You don't need.
It's everything.
Well, no, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But see, if it was a travel card, I could see them saying, "Well, we want to investigate it." But how are you gonna take somebody's not like that? Trust me, they wanted to do that on my thing, and he's looking at it, and I'm like, "Yeah, just as long as I get it back on the when you let me out here in the evening, yo, don't be looking at it like that."
Because we can.
That's not the only.
Hold on, yeah.
Hold on,
There's
don't
not no expired license that you
Yeah,
can hold on to.
you hold on to.
this could allow you to travel, and that's what he taught me that night. It's just the way I put my speech together is what kind of threw me off, and that's just based on studying and being, on point at all times. You have to be on point, right? You have to be on point. But it taught me, because when the sergeant came in, said, I'm just gonna give you a ticket and let you go, right? He said, okay, that means he knows he has to accept it.
Oh yeah.
That's the whole point. They say no. They just.
I'm about to start recording.
Not making
You
this
wash my
anymore.
hands.
I'm asking though, with this,
You don't want no-
keep tagging me
You don't want no dirty-headed Moors up in here, you know that?
tagging me as Freeman on the land.
You know that, I know that too.
Yeah, of course they're gonna keep tagging you with that.
No, but I told the guy, listen, for the record, I'm not a Freeman.
Yeah, you just.
You're even better. You question them. What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you sit down for a good 15 minutes and explain to me what this Freeman thing is, because you're so scared of it. And supposedly my taxes pay your job,
Yeah.
right? Or the citizens' taxes. So I moved through this area, and you're talking. There's people who you're afraid of. I want to know about it.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell me about it, then I can't tell you about it.
And that's what they're trying to tell you.
Because they threw that on me too, and I was just like, I could have gone deeper into it, but I wasn't. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
didn't
because
think of
you
that
like-
curve at the time, but.
Yeah, they threw it
I
on me
did the
too.
bail hearing, because I went to Straw to do my,
I
you
just
know,
wanted to-
I looked for the quickest way to get out of here.
Okay.
And they kept badgering my surety. And my surety said, listen, I don't know him as a Freeman, I know him as a Moor, because my guy went online the night before and studied. I know him as a Moor, the Moors from 18, this, that. And then JP just took back in, and he said, from what I know, I don't know what a free, you want to tell me what the same thing you just said?
Oh,
Explain
Mari.
what a free.
Yeah.
He's just trying to make me into a religious
Need
thing
you
now.
to,
Like I'm some terrorist. I think that's what they're trying to do with this too.
Yeah.
Telling you that you're some terrorist organization.
They're trying to think, man.
Love.
They don't expect that it'll work. But
Yeah.
they're trying.
But I'm finding out I just gotta stay straight,
Well, what I said to them, what I was
Well, what?
if you insult my ancestors anymore,
Yeah, man.
we have to go right now.
That's good, brother.
I said, you insulted my ancestors by saying what you're saying. You insulted my ancestors. And you insult my ancestors, we have to go right now. So I said to him, and he just stopped.
Or you can say, I don't know what that is, but you can say, I'm a man and I am free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you ask him, do you deny that I'm a man?
Yeah.
You deny that I'm free?
You tell me I'm free, so you deny me.
Because the way you're saying it, you're making it into like a single term. You tell, but but the compound words that make up this term that you're saying are all true.
Oh, you wanna start it?
So why do you have a problem with that?
Let's just do more there.
Islam.
You good? Here too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my son's in the.
Oh, shit.
I need you to sign up on the,
5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam.
Alright, peace, brother, peace.
All right, family. Peace and love, Mark.
Okay, bro. So, who's up to date, right?
check. Have that book.
Shit.
Letters to be read in every meeting. A warning from the Prophet. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speeches while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the Prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Jew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. These are the instructions from your Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine Prophet, I, Noble Jew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your Prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your Prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people on our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your Prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the Prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the last few years. Islam. So, welcome once again, Canaanland Moors class. You want to touch that dues thing quick fast? Or you should save for after, when we're done? The dues, because I know you wanted to, you're leaving early.
Yeah, okay, well, more, guys, the dude, do you want to come up? Yeah.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, just, more or less, Islam Moors. I just want to put it out there, in regards to national principles that the temple, what we're following, the principles that we're trying to follow is, a lot of Moors will call myself or Cujo, Omar, and ask for us to do extra stuff for them. You know, like, could you sign this paperwork for me? Could you help me with this? Could you do this for me? All of that.
And we do it. Don't think we don't do it.
We do it. But what we are coming to realize now is that if we're going to say we are a government and we're going to follow particular guidelines as a government, as a member now, there's guidelines that you have to follow as well. One of those guidelines is paying the dues, because most of the stuff that we do, you know, it costs finance to do it. And for the temple to run, to pay the fiat notes for the rent, to pay for the Wi-Fi, the cable, the phones, we need finance to do that. But what we're finding is that a lot of Moors are not paying their dues. And it puts us in a position whereas we're still helping, but we're not getting assistance in that help. But we need the assistance. We need the assistance because we cannot run this without the assistance. So basically, we're stating, if Moors are not paying their dues, don't be expecting the benefits of the temple. Not saying that we're not going to assist you, but what we're saying is that you got to step up as well too, because it's getting much, much more difficult for us to get stuff done. In terms of mailing, in terms of, as I said, paying rent, you know, paying the phones, whatever. It's getting difficult. So what we're asking, do your part, get your dues up to date. If it isn't already, get in contact with myself, get in contact with Cujo, get your dues up to date so that we could keep doing these works. But in regards to benefits, we can't do anything extra if we do not have the assistance. Islam? Islam.
And then for online people or out of Canaanland members, we'll do it like this. If only if class is above 8, you make a donation for the class. Whatever the amount is, you don't care. Because you know how it goes.
What do you mean if it's above 8?
You know what I mean? The rating of the class. So class has to be an 8 out of 10.
Who's making that
In
rating?
order to whoever's watching class.
Oh.
So once you learn something, once class is above an 8, you make a donation. You already know the email address and all that. If you don't, culturaleducators@gmail.com. Culturaleducators@gmail.com. So because Moore's always hit me up, you know what I mean? After class, oh, that was a good class and all that type of stuff. All right, well, if class was so good that it was above an 8, then make a donation. You know what I mean? And help the assistance, because we're putting that because we don't, you know, the people outside of Canaanland, we don't really assist with anything really like that. You know what I mean? They handle their own affairs. Anybody that's online right now, if you need to send a question, if you got a question, you can send that to canaanlandguide@gmail.com. And anybody else who sees this later on or whatever, canaanlandguide@gmail.com. Right. Secondly, we got the urban geoponics, which is the Moorish farm. The Moorish farm in Jacksonville, Florida. They are producing their organic moringa power superfood. So we got those available. 25 notes, because this is homegrown. This is not somebody that we don't know that didn't package this. Moors actually packaged this. Moors dried the moringa themselves, grew it themselves, and packaged it. For more information, www.urbangeoponics.org. Urbangeoponics.org. Urban, GEOPONICS.org. Moringa power, 10 times the vitamin A of carrots, 1.5 times the vitamin C of oranges, 17 times the calcium of milk, 15 times potassium of bananas, 25 times the iron of spinach, 9 times the protein of yogurt. And that's it. All right, so support the Moors that are being industrious, because those are the only ones that really matter. Anybody else playing around with your birthrights? Today we're gonna be dealing with Q&A again, because as the Sunday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Sunday, so much questions get sent in. We get to address some of them. Sometimes we run out of time or whatever. So there were some questions from Tuesday, and then some people sent some questions as well. So we're gonna address those today. Now, one thing that we recognize that there's been a release of our shackles. So we're back up to our above our uploads. We did our time.
We didn't hear you.
We did our YouTube time.
He didn't hear what you said.
We did our jail time.
We served.
I mean, we served our sentence. It becomes a must, right? We served our sentence, so we're free now. So we're going back to our regularly scheduled uploads, which are not going to be 15 minutes long in 20 parts or whatever like that. So we want to thank the YouTube snitch Frank Gary for allowing us to learn some patience. You know what I mean? Because getting a threat that if you get one more or whatever, we'll shut down your whole YouTube page forever, will humble you. You know what I mean? So now that we did our time, those guys can get middle fingers all day, and we're going harder on them now than we were going harder than ever before. And then, because we know now, the whole play is, they're looking to see their stuff and our stuff so they can complain. We just don't use their stuff, but still kick their ass. So we're just putting that out there so the Moors could know, the 15-minute thing's done. Thanks for the Moors who didn't jump ship, because I don't like how these 15-minute videos and all that. I'm not watching you guys no more and all that stuff. Just on to the Moors that stuck to the program.
And who's Frank Gary?
That's Son Netter's slave name.
Oh.
Yeah, because his YouTube page is set up under the slave name, not under who he is. Because half of these people that say that they're conscious or whatever, they really don't know thyself. That's why they still have slave names, right? And do everything in slave names without reserving their rights and all that type of stuff. So they're gonna do what they do. So we got testimonial. Okay, from Najwa L. Bay. Islam J.S. Cujo and Canaanland Moors. Last couple days I have met two brothers, one from Tobago and one Indian from India. Oh yeah, remember you gotta talk about that Indian thing. The Trinidadian looked Pakistani and the Hindu brother looked and spoke like my folks here in northwest Amexem. After concluding my work-related duties, Abdul, the Trinidadian, thanked me and reached out for a handshake. This is something that never happens in trucking. I shook his hand and asked him what was his nationality. In kind, he asked me the same. My response was Moorish American. He tried to take Moorish off of American, but I repeated myself and added Maghrib Al-Aqsa. He still didn't acknowledge the term, so I said Al-Marak. Again, he didn't affirm, so I said the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1787. He definitely acknowledged that and seemed quite pleased that a sister in the mainland is conscious of her birthrights and heritage. Secondly, the Hindu brother, Rizwan, shared the same culture as us over here, being raised in Queen Khalifa territory. Looking and speaking with him, You would not have thought otherwise because of his complexion, dialect, attire, and mannerisms denoted that he was raised here on the continent. He told me that he was Indian. I asked him what type of Indian did he mean, thinking this might be an opportunity to teach and share information. When he said he was an Indian from India, I was amazed. I saw the family resemblance, Raiders hat and all. We spoke about the Moors' history and Islam. It was a beautiful build. When I gave the sign of Islam, he returned the same to me. During our conversation, he checked me when, quote unquote, Christ was mentioned, asking if I knew that Christ was a degree, whereas I affirmed that I did not know it is a degree. We continued our conversation again. It was a beautiful encounter. Both events reminded me what was said recently. Namely, the brothers from the east are already here, waiting on us to wake and step up. On a private note, there is a brother, Appalachian Wizard Bay. We spoke and he has plans to get in touch with Canaanland. He has some concerns and wants to connect with some experienced Moors. Keep an eye out for him, Islam. So, on that note, if Bob Amar, do you want to?
Yeah, so yesterday I was in a store and the store is owned by a couple of brothers from Hindustani. They call themselves Indians, but anyway, so I said to him, okay, I'm not going to be paying any taxes on it. He says, well, do you have an Indian status card? I said, well, I'm not an Indian, but I'm Aboriginal. I'll give you my nationality card. So I gave it to him. He looked at it. He's like, okay. Funny thing is, though, let's back up a second. He didn't take the taxes off. What he did was he gave me a discount on the price. He still wanted the taxes, though, but I got a discount on the price. So anyway, so he says to me, but you're not Indian. So I said, all right, let me ask you this question. They say there's a native Indian over here, right? He was like, yes. I said, you're from India, you're an Indian, right? He's like, yes. I said, so why don't you proclaim that you're a native Indian? He paused for a second, and he's like, wait a second. Yeah, I'm Indian. I said, yeah. If you're an Indian, they're native Indian, so you should proclaim that you're an Indian.
Yeah.
What's the problem? He's like, wait a second. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So he called his brothers over there, like, yeah, like, why don't we do that? Like, yeah, we're Indian. Wait a second, yeah. I said, so do you see the bull behind it? I said, I'm Aboriginal. All right? Do I look Indian to you? He's like, no. I said, okay, that's who we are. We're Aboriginals. But I asked him a question again. There's native Indians over here. They're not all from India. You're Indian, from India. Why don't you do the same thing? He says, you know what, I'm going to look into that. Simple as that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the question. They're from India, they're Indians. And they have the native Indians over here, right? So when I basically spoke to him about that, he was like, you know what, brother, like, make sure you come back again. We have to talk. Make sure you come back again. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience yesterday, man. But I still wanted the taxes out, but which is okay. Yeah, I got the discounts.
Compensate for the taxes.
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
They done that to me before because they didn't know how to take it out.
Yes.
So they give me discount.
They give you the
13% discount.
the discount of the tax.
Yes.
You know?
Next question, or testimonial. Well, there's some questions in there too. I recently went to an airport to catch a flight, setting up a trip, and everything was very easy. Even the airline was familiar with identification. The only problem was TSA. The only problem was TSA.
Those
Security at the airport?
They were all kinds of things. Then after not allowing me to fly, they suggested I get a US passport to travel. Can you please give me advice on handling this situation? Is this grounds for a suit?
That's a good question.
So, TSA, Transportation Security Administration or something like that. So, airline was down with the whole his nationality card or whatever like that, made him book the ticket and all that. When he got the ticket for the airline and he went to TSA, TSA was the people who
I think it's TSS.
denied him,
It's TSA.
right? Go over there, TSA.
Over there.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is how do we get past the gatekeepers? Right? There are Moors who have gotten past the gatekeepers. Right? We know for sure Brother Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey got past the gatekeepers, used a nationality card, got on a plane, and went, I think he went from Philly to Chicago. And we know that Brother Seton Rabe got past the gatekeepers, went from Philly to New Orleans, and then back with nationality card, no passport, nothing like that, right? One of the things that allowed them to pass was proof that that's really who you are. Now, one of the things that we know that they use as proof, and this is something to apply to whatever situations that you're dealing with. One of the things that they use as proof is mail. If you have multiple pieces of mail that match your identification, then your identification is legit in their eyes, right? When we have, like, because we always look at seeking some type of remedy initially when a violation happens, but we have to get into the attitude of the real issue is we're the problem. The real issue is that we're just finding out about nationality and birthright. This has been going on since 1913. This has been going on, right? The law stopped in 1913 when Drew Ali brought all this info back to us. So now we have this information back to us, and we have it 100 years late, thinking that put it down, yeah, it's gonna work because it's been around or whatever. No, because they're looking at your activity. They're looking at, how can you show that you've been exercising as this? If you can't show that you've been exercising at this, more than likely they're gonna block you. And that's not them, that's you. Because, why are you Negro black colored? Because remember the lesson, ignorance is no excuse. So if our claim is, well, I didn't know about it and all that stuff, don't even go there. Don't need to go there. We already know that we don't know. The issue is getting to the place where we do know. And not only that we know, but that when we express that we know, other people recognize that we know and go along with whatever demand, request that we're making. So you have these people. Now remember that you have Homeland Security, and you have Homeland Security and democracy orders in place already. That they already have their standard of what is expected when you come there, right? Beyond the no liquids and no that and no this and you can't have this in your bag and your bag has to be this. Regardless of all that, you have that they're expecting certain things when you say I'm coming here. Here's my whatever, right? We've taught. Learn to live within contracts. Get a passport, reserve your rights, make sure you have your picture on, fez on in there like that, and enjoy your trip, because it's really not your passport once you reserve your rights and all that stuff. Once you are living within that contract that you have, then they have no issue. They let you go on the plane. I can tell you, because I have a passport to go on a plane. Because I'm not going there to be going through this stuff, going like what he's talking about. Because I already know that they're gonna go there. We already know from, you know what I mean? Like for example, Brother Seton Rock went on a plane with his nationality card. It's not like he didn't. He went on a plane with nationality card, but he still has a passport. Why? Because he knows how to live within contracts. And if I have a plane to catch, these people aren't going to let me lose 500 on some flight or whatever over some, we don't recognize this card BS. When you could just give them a passport. It's no different than with Brother Supreme. When he got his windows busted open and all that type of stuff, showing them nationality card. And then after they kidnapped him and all that stuff, and they got him in the cell, they said, why didn't you just show a license? Like, what's wrong with the license? Well, nothing. The license is, nothing's wrong with it. But if I show the license, then you got your jurisdiction or whatever like that. Well, if you show the license, we wouldn't have bust your window open and we wouldn't have kidnapped you. If you would have just showed the license. Right? So it comes back to the thing of pick your battles. And a battle like go on a plane with a nationality card, that's the record for that is 2 and 500,000 or whatever. The record sucks. Probably it might make sense to not play that team anymore if you're 2 and 5,000.
Yeah.
Why play them? What's the purpose?
And the thing is that it's their airline.
That too,
It's their airline.
right? If we had our own airline, there wouldn't be no problems about what ID are you using or whatever, right? If we had our own store, we wouldn't have to worry about taxes off them denying taxes off. If we had our own car manufacturer, we don't have to worry about when we go buy it, they're giving us ownership and stuff like that. We're gonna get the bill of sale, just like, we're gonna get the actual certificate, the manufacturer's certificate of that, right? In order for us to now take that and then do whatever it is that we're supposed to do, quote unquote, Moorish, right? So being that we're not there, there's, we have to measure what we're doing and how we're engaging these people based on what's the record, right? What's the record out there with Moors? When we look at certain things as far as activity. So if we say, when we say right to travel, a right to travel record is maybe, 4,000 to 5,000. So we might have a little bit more, freedom exercising that right opposed to the right to claim a house. Because claim a house record is 0 and 5,000. So nobody who says that they're more should even entertain the thought of go claim some house. Because there's nobody that's done it that isn't still going through whatever BS that it is that they're going through. You know what I mean? Right? Like, put down your nationality, get taxes off. record of that is like 5,000 to 2. So everybody should be doing that.
Yeah, it should
Nobody
be
should
on
be
it.
having any questions about, well, should I show my nationality card when I go to the store and all that stuff? Because our record speaks for itself with regard to that activity. There's nothing to even debate. There's so much testimonials out there with Moors who use their nationality card on purchases. That alone should get people to say, well, hold on a second, this might be something to consider, look into, whatever like that. You know?
The best thing is you have nothing to lose, really.
Right.
Do it.
You know? So, is this grounds for a suit? Well, everything's grounds for a suit because everything that's happening is happening under color. Everything that's happening is happening under fraud. So, yes, there is a grounds for suit. Are they going to go with it? How, you know what I mean? They should go with it again with suits. More suing corporate states or more suing whoever is coming at them. That record is more in the loss column than the win column because majority of Moors that sue, they're in court forever after that. There's always something. The ones who do get through, they get through because one, they're not in some city or whatever like that. They're in some town somewhere, right? Where it's everybody knows that one judge. Everybody who has court, same judge that deal with them, or 4 judges or whatever like that. So that, you know, once you file a suit on one, all the other ones, they're gonna run. They're gonna not want to deal with you. But when you have jurisdiction like where we're at, where, you know what I mean, they can pull anybody. They pull somebody off the street, tell them, hey, just be a judge for today. And don't let anybody you see coming with that red hat, don't give them no passes. They can do that in their jurisdiction because it's vast and the color is way more steep than in some small town where everybody knows everybody, right? But again, you want to look at the battle that you are going to be going into, right? Before you get to the outcome of, yes, we got a win because of whatever like that, there's gonna be a battle before that. Before you get to hold up the thing and say, yes, the Wimbledon champion or whatever like that, there's all these people that you need to play first and beat them. You're not just going up there and then you're the champ. You better know how to play and you better be beating the people who you're playing against. Because the loser's not holding up no cups. Right? So when we have, and again, you know, we know that a lot of people, when it comes to the aspect of getting on a plane, leaving the country or whatever like that, going somewhere for something, we know that a lot of people who can't and they want to show a nationality card or whatever is because they probably have some type of, they have something with the corporate people where the corporate people is not allowing them to have a passport. They're denying them even that. Right? So the next alternative is, well, look, proclaim my nationality, and if I use this as my ID, then yeah, I can go anywhere. Yeah, but if, you know, you were a nigger yesterday and you have a nationality card today, you get on a plane, they're not taking you serious. Well, like, prove it. Prove that you're that person. Oh, well, here's this box of mail. If you check all those, you'll see all those, regardless who they came from, they're addressed to the same name on this card, to the same address. And then they do whatever it is that they do. And again, when second round went across, he had mail with him to prove it. And that's what they used to let him get on the plane. Oh, your mail matches up? Okay, fine, no problem. Sorry about that. You know, here's your stuff. Go, it's all good. Do whatever it is that you do, right? And when Brother Abdullah got on, he didn't use mail. He used straight building with them on the spot. Matter of fact, with his situation, they took a dude off the plane to put him on it. So we know that it's not, something that's, this isn't real or we don't know or whatever like that. We know for a fact, right? We know that once the individuals become groomed in this, right? Once the people get this information and they study the information, the frequency about them is going to change. And the frequency about them changing is what's going to let this stuff happen. As soon as you have a challenge or a battle and you realize that oh damn, I don't know, or you're skeptical or something like that, the people that you're battling against, they seen that when you walked in the door, that you're not secure. Right? Whereas we're thinking that, information, I have this information, so if I apply it, then it's going to work because I got this information from whatever source that's legitimate, so this thing's going to work because Supreme Court ruled against this and all that type of stuff. These people out here who are criminals, they don't care about all that. They care about how real are you about your claim that you're making. Just like people make the claim, Black Lives Matter. Well, you can make the claim, but clearly they don't matter if they're killing people in the street. And it's not even nothing to debate, that's just what the fact is. So it's time to change tune and say something else matters because clearly Black lives don't. But if they want to live in ignorance that Black lives do matter when they don't, then the struggle continues for those people, right? The energy that is emitted from the individual that is exercising their right has to be sure, right? We always use Jordan as an example. When he went on the court, he wasn't losing, right? Use Tyson as an example. When he went in the ring, he wasn't losing. Muhammad Ali, when he went in the ring, he wasn't losing. By the time, when they do the stand-up face-off each other, guy already lost to Mike Tyson. Before even going in the ring, he lost. Right? That's just what it is. Right? Even the guy knew that he lost before he went in the ring. Because the other individual came with more surety of who they are. When you read autobiography of Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest and all that stuff, was a ritual for everybody who had to fight. Because if he says he's the greatest, then obviously you suck. And you can't come and say that you're the greatest after him because, then you're copying his stuff. Right? So, so we know that using a nationality card as quote-unquote a passport could work because we know Moors who have used their nationality card to get on a plane. So it's not like it doesn't work. We know that it works. But we also know that those individuals who it worked with, they're not like in doubt of their Moors and in doubt of what it means to be a Moor or in doubt of the obligation of TSA and whoever else. They know everybody's position and everybody's going to play their position when they come around. No different than with Abdullah. Like, you're not going to talk about black people, white people around Abdullah Bey. It ain't happening. It doesn't matter who you are. He's going to stop you and he's going to correct you that there ain't no such thing as those things. We're not even having that conversation. And then people who are receiving that are either going to yield, abandon, or, forfeit, right? Because, it's a match or whatever. So either they're going to forfeit or they're going to stay in battle, right? Majority of times they forfeit because they already know that they're not going to be able to pass the threshold with this individual.
He's a champ.
He's the champ. He's the etymology champ. You're not gonna get him to be in connotative discussions. It's not happening. All discussions that he's gonna have are gonna be from a origin of language perspective, and he's gonna correct you at everything that you say that's off of that. Everything, doesn't matter, right? Now, another thing that we have to appreciate is the work that these Europeans did, these colonizers did, to keep us in this place where certain things don't get through. We don't get passes on certain things, right? The brilliance of their diabolical nature has to be appreciated. That's why we can't play the black thing of, oh, hate the European or whatever. They took the stuff that we gave them, the little 33 degrees that we gave them, and they're ruling the world with it. 33 degrees of, say 360, some people say 720. So you got 33 degrees of 720 degrees, and you're ruling the world with that. And then the other rest of the degrees that are just out there, that everybody else has access to, they can't even live with it. They can't even get a place to rent with it. They can't even, they can't do anything for their survival with everything else that the European doesn't have, doesn't take hold of or whatever. What of the stuff that we gave them are they using? So, I know where it's coming from with sue them and all that type of stuff, but we put it out there too. Before you sue them, sue yourself for whatever stuff that you were supposed to do that you didn't do. You know what I mean? One thing you sue yourself for is not knowing about your nationality and birthrights. Because when you check it out, you realize that because of you studying, you found out about this information. It's not somebody put you onto this information. This is you vibrating on a certain frequency that you know something's wrong, and because you know that something's so wrong, right stuff came to you. And then you took the right things and did whatever it is that you did with it, and now you're here. Some people take the right things and they cast it aside and keep going through wrong stuff and never get that they're playing themselves. Right? So you put yourself onto this information. You brought yourself in this place where this information means something or matters. So when you start getting into learning about yourself, always keep in mind, and this is, like for me, this is 8 years in this info, and we're still detoxing from the nigger industry. It's not done because we got fezzes on, we have a temple and all that stuff. Nigger industry is still alive and well, even in people who say that they have knowledge. Because when we say that we're under mental slavery by European psychology, that's not something that is, skin deep. That's DNA deep. You have to really put aside all your childish stuff, for real, all the emotional stuff that you got, or your dad didn't do something when you were small, your mom didn't do something, your aunt did this and all that stuff. Throw away all your beliefs and all your BS that has been plaguing you all your life, and put some time toward changing your frequency. Because none of this show your nationality card and all that stuff is going to work if you're frazzled in your brain about who you are. It's not going to work if your energy is all messed up. It's not going to work if you're, today we're Moors and then tomorrow you're with black guys and you're doing black stuff, and then the next day that you're a Moor, and then the next day that you're with black guys doing black stuff. You're not telling them nothing about Moors, but you're a Moor, and then the stuff is never going to work. You're always going to be running into word blocks. You're always going to be running into pitfalls. You're always going to find yourself in a situation where you always have to deal with them, battle them, or whatever. But then when you speak with Moors who look at this as study first, they have no issues with nobody. Like zero. Why? Because they're not out there trying to, they're not out there trying to use the new weapon that they got like expert when they're not expert. Because there's people out there who are experts. And the expert already knows just by the way that you make a fist or whatever, this guy's done for. that's your fist or whatever, you're done for, let's go. And they'll call you out. And you better know how to do your stuff when they call you out. Because these people aren't playing. They're in a position where they've lost everything. They lost everything in England, came over here, and they still lost everything again. Right? And it's becoming apparent to the world that they lost everything, and these people were fronting. They weren't really governments, and they didn't really have treasury bonds and all that stuff. These people have been faking for 200 years, and now it's coming to the realization that, we realize that these people are faking. And the whole entire world is saying, you know what? We're going to start watching these people differently. But then, Negro, black, colored people in America, they want to claim that they know their self, but they want to go authenticate birth certificates and stuff like that. They want to give the colonial forces their power so that their colonial forces could use the power against them when time comes to use the power. Or, use it on people who don't have any knowledge of who they are or what's going on in the world, right? So, again, stressing the point that nothing's wrong with exercising your rights. But if you don't know your rights, don't try exercising. Nothing's wrong with thinking that your nationality card is every type of ID that the corporate state said that they are going to give you. Right? Nothing's wrong with that. Nationality card is a passport. Okay? You're supposed to be able to show that anywhere and go anywhere. Nationality card is your tax exempt card. Nationality card is your ID. Nationality card is your driver's license. Nationality card is your social insurance number. Nationality card is everything that those people give. Right? But do you really know that? Or is that based on, well, I was watching a video and this guy said that that's that, so now I'm going to use that as that. Well, that doesn't mean that that's going to work. Right? Again, when you're dealing with these colonial people on levels like this, being under occupation and trying to get around the occupation. For an instance of traveling, it's a fact that people who have issues, you can do the research on this, people who have issues with wherever jurisdiction that they're at, and they're going somewhere else, that the place where they're going, they have to send some type of documentation to the embassy to let the embassy know. Right? That's just something that has to be done. The embassy has to know that you're going into that jurisdiction. And that, you might have some charges, you might have whatever the issue is, right? Because there's all these different levels of joinder that we don't, because of the lack of study, certain things we don't even look into. So, if we look at other people, when other people that come from other places and then they come here, they come here with the passport from where they're at, but then when they get here and they become quote-unquote citizen or whatever, then they get one from here. But that doesn't take away from the one that they got from where they come from. The one that they got where they come from is still able to be used. They can still show it. It's not dissolved or whatever like that. They just have the thing now that's the jurisdiction where they're at, right? Which is the same thing that we're doing, saying, well, learn to live within contracts, let's go get a passport. Well, they say that I have this and I can't. Okay, well, what do you have to do to get that thing lifted so that you can go get a passport? Because until we have, for example, until we flood the market and Moors are at those TSA counters or whatever, that when we say, they already know, pass, we're going to be battling with these people, right? Or unless everybody proclaims their nationality and then everybody goes up. Sorry, nationality card, no passport. Well, we can't let her, so, all right, fine, we'll let you go. Next, nationality card, no passport. And everybody's putting that down, then they're going to know how real it is. If they have one individual put it down and 500 people got a passport, no reservation of rights or whatever like that, then one other guy comes, that guy that comes after, they're going on the strength of all those Negroes that came before him. Because, you know, you look like them, because, you know, majority of the time, even with Moors, when, you know, sometimes, you know, we get, you know, well, we're Moors, so it doesn't matter and stuff like that if we, but fezzes and turbans and stuff like that matter when you're dealing with jurisdiction. Fezzes and turbans and stuff like that set the stage for how these individuals are going to deal with you. A majority of people that they have issues with these individuals, majority of the time is because you look like a Negro. And they're making an assumption that you probably have a license or you probably have the stuff that it is that we're looking for, but you're just refusing to give it because you're a free man on the land, a sovereign citizen trying to defy something, right? Which all these things are things that need to be corrected, but those things are going to be corrected by individuals who have the information. And then sit on the information for a while. You know, no different than, you know, you're going to do, you know, you're going to make the soup. It's not put all the stuff in the water and then, you know, take the pot off, yeah, let's eat some soup. No, nothing's cooked or whatever. You just put stuff in the water, that's it. You don't let nothing simmer, you don't let nothing, as soon as you put it on the pot, you take it off the stove. That's not a reality. As soon as you know, as soon as you go on the court, people talk about let's do what? No stretching, no layup line, nothing like that. Right? So you have to take some time with the information to let it marinate. Because we're talking about getting ourselves out of the mental slavery. Mental slavery goes into us thinking that these guys are some type of authority when they're letting you know they're administrators. They're not hiding it, right? Homeland security. What homeland they talking about? Because all these people who are running this or whatever, they're European. This is not something that's in Europe. This here. How is this called homeland when it's here? And then they're not from here. Clearly it's not homeland security. But now if homeland is really their corporation under the guise of homeland, well then they're gonna do what they do, right? No different than oh Canada, our home and native land. What do you mean? How is it your home? How is it your home but native land? You need to be native home and native land. But if everybody goes with their home, then now they just got jurisdiction to be able to say passport, border, let me see your license, let me see your whatever, and everything that we're doing is to unravel what they've raveled. And we're unraveling. It's just a slow process because our people are severely mental slaves and don't know it. Brother Moore, I know Brother Morris, you got something? You remember?
Yeah, so why can't we just use a certain process and just go from one realm to a next realm? And why are we taking so long to build a community, to go to transition? Why can't we? I know what you're saying. Like sometimes it takes some time to understand, but is there steps that can be implemented and followed?
Well, the issue is not necessarily that we don't have the community, right? The thing is that the people who are assuming jurisdiction, they've been assuming, and we've been letting them. So their perspective of we have jurisdiction, even though it's under assumption, is a reality. Because there's people out here today that's going to give them jurisdiction if they assume, opposed to challenging them, right? So when we say and again, you know, we brother Amazite brings up a term of dirty colonists, right? That it's not only dirty Moors that are dirty. There's Europeans over here that are dirty too. That they've taken the mentality of steal these people's birthright. But remember that the authority here is Moors. So if there's a TSA, it's supposed to be Moors. If there's a Homeland Security, it's supposed to be Moors. If there's any jurisdiction claiming to have some type of authority, when we go into that jurisdiction, we should only see Moors, fezzes, and turbans in there. If we see something else, clearly that is occupation going on, right? And you know, the fact that we haven't recognized until late that it's occupation going on. You know, like how people say, oh, too much taxes or too much whatever, but they're not addressing the entities that are creating the imbalance. They're just addressing the imbalance, which gives those people a free pass or whatever, because nobody's addressing the real issue, right? The issue is not taxes. The issue is foreigners saying you owe tax. Tax is not the problem, right? It's not 15%, 11%, whatever like that. It's who are these guys called CRA? Who are they? Where they come from? When were they founded? Do they even have jurisdiction in taxes? Are they something that were put in to make people think that they have something? You know, a good thing is Brother Yusuf put me on to something to watch or a book to get. The Creature on Jekyll Island or something like that. Edward Griffin is the name of the author. And that just talks about the foundation of the Federal Reserve and how it has zero connection to the United States government. That it's strictly private. Zero. Nothing at all to do with any government, anything. But everybody backed it. Everybody said, yeah, come on, bring it in. Because we need some help because depression and whatever like that. When that's their own enslavement that they just sanctioned. And then now they can't get out of it now because they sanctioned it. It's not like somebody did something diabolical and it was just that. The diabolical thing was done and then they put the diabolical thing in front of the people and said, hey, if you guys want this over here, or do you want this new form of water? Everybody said, oh, let's get a new thing because the old thing clearly doesn't work or whatever. Okay, well, you guys just sold yourself. And then now trying to get out of it. And then you have all these people, Lauryn Hill, you know, Wesley Snipes. You have the whole track record of people. Sammy Davis Jr., Red Fox. You have the whole, everybody went to those courts or whatever. When we don't want to pay, you owe and all that type of stuff. You're paying. Or you're doing time. And then everybody's arguing, well, taxes, well I made a file and I filed this and then I filed. But nobody's not questioning who these people are, challenging them about tax. Who's IRS? Who are they? Where they come from? Where they get jurisdiction? How come they weren't around in 1781? Why they just come about recently, right? So our thing is making sure that we don't get caught in the misconception game that people are caught in. That again, which is why it comes down to the studying, so that we can be clear that when they say City of Toronto, that's private corporation. So as soon as you get one of those yellow things on your car, you should be fighting it. It should never ever be in your mind, just go pay. Because even people who, we use this example all the time too, even people who don't, or even people who have licenses, even if they have a license or whatever, they go to court, they're gonna make up some BS about why they shouldn't pay, and more than likely, the judge is gonna say, okay, pay half, pay a quarter, whatever. But the Negroes, they go straight to the line up and go pay. Line up and go pay. Mr. Chin, all of a sudden, he doesn't know English. He needs an interpreter and all that type of stuff. Goes to the court, interpreter, oh, all right, no problem, see you whenever. Now, we don't know what happens after that, because we don't see them after that. But we know that that $500, whatever ticket that he got, he now has an extra day, month, is probably dissolved. Lawyer's probably going to deal with it. Right? You had something to say?
Yeah, and just to your point of why is it necessary to keep having to fight in these different venues? Like, these aren't departments, they're agencies. Right? Most of the entities that cause you trouble and issues that are coming from so-called government are not even part of the so-called government. They're explicitly agents of that de facto thing. So it's already de facto, but then it creates agencies to do the things that it needs to do, you understand? And they're not organized, so it's not like if you're successful in one, then all the rest know about it, or all the rest are gonna give you what you want. They don't even know. They have no idea, they have no clue. So you have to understand, like, these aren't departments that speak to each other. They're agencies that act on their own and claim to be under, a unified government. But in reality, you're gonna have to treat each as its own, you know what I mean, and really look at it as its own, as a little entity that's trying to run a thing on you. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So whatever information you can use, the better. And just another thing too on like the nomenclature and the symbology that's used. This is all, again, like you said, it's de facto, and it doesn't make sense if it's Europeans running it. But if you take it seriously, there's people who are doing their job in each and all those agencies who take it very seriously and take it for what it's supposed to be. So Homeland Security of the homeland, right? So if you take it as your homeland security and you treat them as such, you'll have them confused. Because you'll be like, so you're defending the homeland. Okay, good. Okay, so you're defending it from, European invaders and European foreign corporations too? You're defending it from de facto corporations and stuff too? Okay, good. Because that's what I need. Because you're in the Moorish homeland, we need that.
Right.
And if that's what they want to do, then cool. Because eventually that's what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
It brings light as to why they even have those names and why certain, like, Homeland Security is above, like, CIA and stuff like that. Like, it's newer, but it's the umbrella for all these other things, even though it just came about 10 years ago.
Right.
Why is that? Because it's called Homeland Security. So even if tomorrow all the de facto were gone and we're just Moorish government, we wouldn't have to change the name.
Right. It's still home.
Yeah, because it still covers
Because we're still defending homeland.
Exactly.
So that's a perspective to carry, you know what I mean, and always reference. Like, you always should. You should always approach it as what it's supposed to be if the agency that you're dealing with has proper intentions and claim such on their website or their mission statement or whatever. Approach that and deal with that. If it's proper and you think it's proper and it's according to, you know, Moorish ideals and customs, then approach it like that.
Right, so like even on that note, when you go to have a lot of these agencies and you go to their website, they'll tell you UN declarations and all that. Oh, yeah, we back UN declarations and all that stuff, and we and you know they have the international arena wording in their stuff, but you know under color, does that really apply if they're colorable? Is that just something that they're saying just to, you know, reel you in, get you to yield? You know what I mean? When you shouldn't really be yielding, right?
What does de facto mean?
Got the law dictionary right there? Just look up de facto right there. DEF.
Maybe we should look up de jure then as well.
Yeah.
I'll look up the jour.
Oh, you got there? There's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the answer is gonna clear up how you're looking at, or how you've been looking at certain people.
Ready? De facto?
Right, yeah, de facto.
Okay, de facto. In fact, actually, indeed, in reality, read out versus state, 161, Tennessee, 248, 30, S dot, W dot, 2D, 255, comma,
Yeah, you
257.
can leave those out. So just read the
Thus,
top
an
part of it.
office, position of status existing under a claim or color of right, such as deputy county clerk. I'll leave out the case law here. There's a lot of case law for this. Case, run a lot of cases.
Yeah,
Let me read de facto government.
yeah, read de facto government.
De facto government, one that maintains itself by a display of force against the will of the rightful legal government and is successful, at least temporarily, in overturning the institutions of the rightful legal government by setting up its own in lieu thereof. It's a case law.
Right, okay, so de facto is in actuality without. Right, so whatever it is, if somebody makes a claim, and if they make a claim of we're the government, right? Then the things that they're doing should be in line with government, right? So something in line with government is currency backed by gold and silver. If those people who say that they're government don't have currency backed by gold and silver, they're probably not government, or they're de facto, right? Color, not doing with complexion of anything like that, but color is a law term that means fraud. That means not real. So when they say colored people, what kind of people are those? People that are not real. And many of our people say that they're colored people. So when they say that they're not real people, which means that they're things, that's why stuff could happen to them with no remedy, no consequence. No matter if they complain, no matter if they have a press conference, no matter if they shut the street down, regardless of what they do, they're always going to be looked at as You said it out your mouth that you're colored, right? Display is temporary. If it's temporary, right? It's probably de facto, because it should be something that has longevity. So like when we say our status is Moors, that's something that has a timeline that goes into antiquity. They say, well, my status is black. That only goes back to the 11th century. Doesn't go before the 11th century. So if somebody makes the claim that, well, black ancient people or whatever, that's a de facto statement, because black is temporary, right? De jure.
Okay. De jure, descriptive of a condition in which there has been total compliance with all requirements of law, of right, legitimate, lawful, by right, and just title. In this sense, it is the contrary of de facto. It may also be contrasted with de gratia, in which case it means as a matter of right, as a de gratia means by grace or favor. Again, it may be contrasted with de equity, here meaning by law, as the letter means by equity.
Right? So, all requirements of law. Just title. So a just title would be say
Loyal.
with that. Allodial, not feudal. Allodial, not feudal. A matter of right. So de jure is dealing with correct. De jure is dealing with legitimacy. And once this stands, then this falls. Automatic. But if this never stands, then this lives on forever.
So de jure is the opposite of de facto?
Yeah. Right? But de jure is where you want to be. Right? So like cold is the opposite of a hot, but you can use either one. It depends on your preference. This doesn't depend on preference. Like you don't want to be you don't want to be using this at all. You want to always be de jure. So this is where it comes in with us saying again that we're Moors opposed to black. We have a flag opposed to a banner. We have a nationality opposed to some type of citizenship or whatever. We have unity, whereas our people don't. They have pep rallies under the guise of we're united because we came together for this, whatever it is we came together for. But it has no type of political power, or nobody's really gonna care that there's even 5,000 people out here. They don't care because it doesn't have any effect on de jure. It's only gonna be affecting de facto. And then if you're affecting de facto, you're not really having an effect. Right? It's illusionary. Any other questions before we continue on?
I have another question, but
Yeah,
it might be off topic.
Oh, it's all good. Send them up, sis. It's all good.
Like, I'm just trying to understand, from my understanding, like, Moorish people are, like, the original Americans.
Right?
But, like, with the whole so-called slave trade, like, I don't understand how you would know if you're originally Moorish or not. It's like, I'm from Nova Scotia, so they say that we came from, like, the west coast of Africa
Right.
into Jamaica, into the States,
Yeah.
and then to Canada. But, like, how am I supposed to know if that's true? And if so, like, would that make me Moorish because I'm here now, or?
Okay, so when you when we look at this is tied to, I mean, land, people, and water, right? Attached to water, the Moors are the navigators, right? Attached to people, the custodians of African culture. And then attached to land, the world. Okay? When we adopt the perspective that somebody navigated the seas and brought us somewhere or anywhere, right? The timeline of those people's navigation was during the time when we ruled the waters, not them. So when they say so-called slavery, and they brought people over here, during that time frame of slavery, Europeans didn't have boats. Boats weren't something that were in their consciousness because they thought the world was flat and sail off the edge and all that. So they weren't getting in the water. If they got in the water, it was because somebody else had a boat and they jumped on board the boat. But majority of the people who had the boats were us. So when they say came from West Africa and went to Jamaica, then went to so there wasn't some Europeans brought anybody there. It was our boats that did that. They just jumped on the story. No different than Ten Commandments is 42 laws of Ma'at. But then they don't mention 42 laws of Ma'at, they just say people 10 Commandments. Everybody goes with that. But what did? They jumped onto the history. That wasn't theirs. But if they can attach themselves to it, now that gives them a place in history where they didn't exist before. That's why the European quote-unquote royalty says British Empire. Because really it's the Moorish Empire that they took over. But if they said Moorish Empire, everybody would know that they're not the authority. So they say British Empire and everybody goes with the fact that, okay, well I guess they are the whatever. But really what they're doing by saying that is tying themselves to a history where they didn't exist.
So what about like the conditions that they say that the African people were in on the boats and the numbers that they came over here, like would you deem that to be false?
Right, because when we look at if we analyze the conditions, right, again, if we use a timeline from Africa to over here, in those times, unless you have some type of ocean liner like people go on cruises on, ain't nobody in no bellies of ships and stuff like that, hurling on each other, urinating on each other, defecating on each other, and then just getting off the boat and then going to slavery. It ain't happening. That's not even, you know what I mean? Nobody sprayed these people down, nothing like that. You just took these people off the boat and then put them on a plantation.
Muscle atrophy.
After 3 months, they're laying down in bottom of some ship, no sun or nothing like that. 3 months, right? Somebody in their hospital bed for 2 days. They got somebody to come turn them every 2 days or whatever. That wasn't happening on no slave ship. None of those slaves were drinking water. Can't drink seawater. And then water is one of the heaviest elements, so you can't have no canteen on the boat talking about, We're gonna help the slaves and keep them hydrated and all that stuff.
You want us to?
You know what I mean? So there's just too much things that are against the reality to make it seem legitimate.
Yeah, I just want to tie something into that because a lot of our understandings come from European colonization and what they've taught us over the years and what they've taught our parents and their grandparents and whatnot. So most things that we're believing is coming from their perception. So when you're talking about Moors, you got to first understand that the land was all connected at one point. So dark-skinned people were the original people of the land, so it's not just about them existing in Africa. They existed all over the place. You know what I mean? So when the land divided and it moved, all of a sudden these people weren't just in one area, they were all over the place, but now there's water separating everybody. You know what I mean? So it's not about bringing someone from one place over here, it's about them already being here and then them destroying the culture that's here so we forget where we came from. And then them importing a new story and manipulating our belief systems into what they want us to believe instead of the actual real history, and that's why we're here. We're basically all coming back to what the real history is of our people.
So what's the original piece of land called then?
Pangea.
Oh.
And everything was one.
How do you spell that?
P-A-N-G-A. Yeah, bro.
So I also add as well, like in their story of slavery, they have so much stuff, like they have chains, they have drawings and pictures of everything else, but they don't have anything to show a slave ship where a physical, even if it's just pictures. They have pictures of everything else. They don't have pictures. But the only thing I ever see slave ship is movies. That's it. I've never seen an actual slave ship where it says, this is a slave ship that they had, or even something to say this is a piece of it. It was nothing. It's just only in movies I ever see. They don't have anything to show.
And they can make up documents saying that this is what it was called, but you never see any real proof.
Right.
Just
Real
the made up
proof.
stuff that they want you to present.
Right, and if they had thousands of ships that they claim, come on, there must be something. Yeah, if you had thousands of ships
10 million people.
to bring over that much people, you must have proof to show something. It can't be just some mystery, like, you know what I mean? Oh, well, we only have
Just one.
Just one. You know what I mean?
We're not even asking for a fleet. Just one. Just show one ship that slaves were brought over here on. And then when we go to also when we go to the etymology of slave, the etymology of slave comes from Slav. So we're not Slavic.
Bound free man.
So the whole concept of slave ship. You talk to Negro black collar people, they start, oh yeah, they did whatever to us or whatever. But if you're not Slav, then that history has nothing to do with you. And then now we say, no, okay, so well, if the slaves were Slavs, then who were the people on the ship that were enslaving these people? Because it wasn't the Europeans, because they weren't down with ships and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Who were the people navigating these ships? The quote unquote slave ships. And then we ask the question again, like, you know, is that even a thing? Slave ship. You know what I mean? Like, is that a reality? That there was a ship that they used just to transport slaves? Just like they have grain ship, and they have, whatever ships that they got. Is there that type of ship? Or is that another form of European psychology to try to get us to disconnect? Yeah,
I was watching the old video you gave me from Dr. Graves, the one who proved that AIDS was a man-made thing. And he said, well, even to believe that they brought people here, when they came here, the Mexicans were here. Why would they even have to sail?
Right.
Why wouldn't they just go down to Mexico? Why wouldn't there be a whole bunch of Mexicans up here right now? Right. So you realize that what the truth is that we were here.
Yeah. That's what it really comes down to. So even when you do Nova Scotia and they talk about the Citadel and all that, right? I wasn't know Europeans built that. You know what I mean? What Europeans building a fort? For what? You know what I mean? Like when you have this mentality that dark-skinned people aren't tied to over here. Like we weren't in the north. You know what I mean? Just like we were everywhere else. We were here just as long as we were everywhere else. but it's again, it's about a disconnect. But once they get you to disconnect from it, then they just assume after that, because you abandoned. Whereas now, you know, there's a brother who we know that his family's from Scotia or whatever, right? And only until he found out about Moorish history did it make sense to him why his family has all this land and all that stuff. And then, you know what I mean, this is like for generations, like just passing the land down. Everybody, to where his aunt came to him like, well, you know what, you're the next guy, you know what I mean? Here's the stuff, and so where we got all this land from? Oh, we always been here. What do you mean we always been here? I thought we were brought over here on some slave ship or whatever like that. No, we always
like
been
in
here.
school they'll teach you that we were brought over here and we were given this land
Right.
from the government.
Yeah. Why would they do that? You know what I mean? Like, why would, you know, it's like what they say about the Olmecs, you know? They have the Olmec heads, and then they say that, well, the slave masters made the Olmecs make the Olmec heads. Well, the Olmec heads look like the slaves, so-called. Why would the slave master why wouldn't he make it of himself? You know what I mean? Like, you know, but again, once you deal with dumbed down people, you tell them anything and they'll go with it.
Just like with the coat of arms, with Moors had on the coat of arms.
Yeah.
Okay, these are European families that are generation of passing down wealth. Why would they have
Moors
slaves on their coat of
on
arms?
their coat of arms.
Because obviously, at one time they revered them and they respected them and they loved them to be in your coat of arms. But people would believe anything. Oh yeah, they're slaves. Oh yeah, they're the slaves. The masters put the slaves on their banner, on their
family crest.
British.
Yeah.
Like all the European coat of arms, like the families they have coat of arms.
If you get look into
And even the ones now with like, sorry to call you, the ones that have cause I remember you said the ones that have the knight's head now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're saying that they used to be Moors head,
Right,
and they
right.
just changed it into
They
the
changed it to a
knight's
knight's head. Yeah.
To kind of like try to hide it.
Yeah, I was at Old City Hall last week, which is the courthouse, and when you walk in that building, go up the stairs, that big mural right on the front, it's like a stained glass window.
Yeah.
You gotta ask yourself, why is it a bunch of Europeans and they have one dark-skinned man there with all the Europeans?
Yeah.
And you don't see a native person with feathers or nothing like that.
Yeah.
This is the Old City Hall, so they're putting in their mural dark-skinned people with the founding people already here. So you gotta ask that question. Why would they even put that man in that picture? You know, and they can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, they have to give you the truth. But they can hide it from people.
Right.
And if most
Right.
people aren't gonna go check it out, they can tell them whatever they want. But at the end of the day, they can't really lie and say, okay, they were never here.
Right.
They have to put a little bit, but they're not gonna tell you about it unless you know about it.
Right. And then if they put it in a mural, they don't have to say nothing because the picture tells 1,000 words. So if you don't want to look, hey, it's up to you. But you know, you can't say that we're not telling you because pictures talk.
So
You know?
would natives or the so-called Indians be considered Moors too?
They would be considered amalgamated Moors. Now people are gonna try to tie the term amalgamated to business.
Yeah, that's
Like
what I
corporations come together and they're amalgamated, right? But from the perspective of, when you look at from a language perspective, amalgamated is an archaic term that also deals with nature, right? But, you know, because of connotative linguistics, certain words, you know, they transfer them to get the power of the word, to use the word in whatever they're doing, and then claim that, oh, well, it's from, that meaning doesn't apply anymore type of perspective, right? So when, just like with what Brother Amari was saying, those individuals that call themselves Indian, they're not from India. And if they are from India, since they're Indian, they're not native to here. They might be native to India, but they're not native here. But then if they say, if you know, it's like they make sure that if you talk with them one-on-one, they're not Indian. But to get their tax or whatever, they're Indian for that. To get their little grant for whatever, they're Indian for that. So how come you guys are Indian and they're not Indian? Oh, well, because they're contracted with the Europeans, again, to steal our birthright, make it look like they're really the natives, when they're not even the natives. That's why they're on the reserve, because the reserve is quote unquote a ghetto, which we know from Nazi Germany. Ghetto is where they put the Jews before they killed them.
And to add to that, if they are native Indian, means they're here before the European got here. They're here before Canada started.
Right.
Why you come now and see me as a native and call me native Canadian?
Right.
You should still call me native, but no Canadian.
Right, right.
Simple.
Right.
You should still call me native, but don't act
But
Canadian.
don't act Canadian on it. Right.
See the game they play?
So it's a thing where, you know, all these things are these are common sense things
Common sense.
that
is it?
people don't, you know, because common sense is so absent right now.
Yeah.
Right. Select people, you know what I mean, are gonna question. You know what I mean? Select people are, well, hey, if the Holy Book says, you know, skin like burnt brass, hair like wool and all that stuff,
Who is he talking about?
like what, why they got Europeans up here? Saying that that's the guy that they're talking about, and then everybody, or you or black colored people, are gonna be, oh yeah, that's the guy or whatever like that. You guys have this book that said that's
All they like to have that book.
you know what I mean? Right? But if we let them tell it, they're gonna tell the story that slave master told them.
Yeah.
Which is why we have to be the ones to talk up, because we're the ones that actually have the right information that's gonna correct people's concepts out here, so that something can happen for our people, that there would be an appearance of getting out of the struggle and finishing the whatever like that.
And to add to that, it's like as we were saying with the Indians, where they call them Canadians. Okay, another thing, they call us Jamaican Canadian. Okay, good. The ones that these European, why they don't call them European Canadian? Even across the states, the USA, why they don't call them European American or European US, but they call them over the African American. All of them accepting this African American. Well, okay, I come from Africa, I'm African American. You come from Europe, why are you not call yourself European American?
Right. They just say American.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when you look up American is the copper colored people,
Exactly.
natives who were here
Exactly.
before Europeans.
Common
So
sense.
if a European is saying I'm American,
Yeah.
and then a quote unquote American is saying I'm black, European now stole their birthright. And they don't even know that their birthright got stolen.
Oh.
Because they're thinking that, well, my black leader said that we're black people, were the founders of whatever like that, and they go with that as their reference point, when they really just sold themselves out. Because there should be these things, these questions asked. You know what I mean? There should, like, something has to click to make you say, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Let me ask a question about this. This needs qualification. You can't just go with it just because, you know what I mean, somebody said it, or, you know, their leader said it, or whatever. Everything should be fact checked 50 times, just to be sure that, okay, we can go with this. And if the people aren't fact checking, more than likely they're about to get played. Let's watch. It's only gonna be a little time before they get played, and then you hear them talking about starting up something to try to, we need to start up something to help, but then they don't change their mindset, they don't change what their status is. They still call themselves black, but they call themselves African. Somebody put up a meme the other day about if black people in America call themselves African American, how come black people in Europe don't call themselves African European? Never ever have they ever even went there in their mind.
Well, even African come here, they don't even say they're African.
African,
They say they're
right.
Nigeria or
Right.
whatever they are.
Right?
They don't even call themselves that.
You know? So we were the ones in the dark.
Yeah, and that's the thing, enough people are not asking questions. Like, I've even met other people who claim themselves to be Moors, and I'll ask them these types of questions, and it's like, they don't want to answer me. They'll be like, claim your nationality. I'm like, okay, but that's not telling me anything.
Right.
You know, and I just take it like, well, you don't know the answer then if you can't articulate it to me.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
Supposed to be
But
teaching.
again, you know, it comes back to that thing about you know, the nobody wants the responsibility to fall on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody has this perspective, like, you know, just say you're a Moor and everything's gonna.
I knew there was more to it than just claiming that.
There's way more to it than just saying I am El Bay or whatever. I'm Moorish American. Way more than that.
Yeah, so-
If anybody's pushing that, no, just don't worry about that. Just say you're a Moor. Everything's gonna be all right. That ain't.
Yeah, but what we should know, what is it? What are the main things? What is the
Everything. Fundamental slavery.
Like I would say,
but there should be principles though.
Yeah, but the principles are go back to everything that you thought
That
you
you
knew
thought.
and relearn it.
exactly, from
And-
our born until now.
Everything
All what you thought you
that's
is
right,
valid.
keep it, and everything
Redo
that's
it
wrong,
all.
throw it away.
So you
Okay,
figure that out.
so that's
How
one
can we
thing.
tell you to
Right,
worry
so
so
that's
much?
the main
So
thing.
much.
That's the
So
main thing. Go
much.
back and know everything for what it really is. So this is North
Like,
America.
for example, we did a class when we went over some books by Amos Wilson, right? Amos Wilson is psychological black scholar, right? As a black individual without knowledge of self, you read his books and your mentality is, you know, black people need to stay together and black people this and black people that, whatever. But then when you have a different mindset and then you go back to those things, you're gonna realize that majority of the people who call themselves black leaders that wrote books and stuff like that, they were talking nationhood. The only thing that was missing was what nation are you tying yourself to? But ultimately they were all talking about nationhood without mentioning the nation.
Yeah.
And if they do mention a nation, they say black nation. And then automatically, once you have the knowledge, if that's where the mind's going, black nation, then automatically you're gonna, you know, you turn from that because you realize that there can't be no such thing as that. So the next logical question, just like what you're saying, well, we need to find out, you know, these things. You know, the next thing is, well, what nation are we talking about? If all these people are one people, and all these people look the same, and all these people, oh, you look like, you look like my cousin, or whatever, like that, and these people all look the same, then they should all be, you know, like, we know all Chinese people have the same, whatever, like that, and then they come from the same place. Then the people that are Filipino, and they have a certain thing. Hindu people, they have a certain thing. They're not calling themselves colored stuff, right? So it's not necessarily that there's, you know, point that we need to know, right? What it is well, where you are, right? Where you, when you come into this information, like, okay, when I came into this information, I was already through Rastafarian school, Black Power school, Nation of Islam school, Nuwapian school, Metaphysics school, and all these schools, right? Knew them. Back of my hand knew them. Studied those things, right? How come none of these stuff mention Noble Juali, Moors, or nothing like that? There's no mention whatsoever. And if it is a mention, it's like, and that's it. And then when I found out about this, I'm looking at it, talking, hold on a second. You talk about empires and we've been here for, you know what I mean, generations and all that type of stuff, and these people haven't told me anything about this. This is something I need to check out. You know, let me just check this out and see, because if they're not telling me about it, clearly I'm not going to go to them and ask. How come you guys never told me about Noble Juali? I ain't worried about them no more. I'm done with them people. Because clearly they sold out if they didn't tell me about this. And then now that, you know, now that we're gravitating in this now, and this has become, you know, we're not now everybody over there now is suspect. Because if those people would have told me about this when I was in their stuff, I wouldn't be in the madness that I got myself into. Some things would have actually got cleared up. You know what I mean? Some things we would have actually seen the fruition of the struggle ending long time ago. There would be no struggling of our people right now.
Wouldn't get so bad.
You know what I mean? But you know, without the correct guidance, you're just spinning your wheels. You're just running on the hamster wheel. You're just running, going nowhere. And we've been going nowhere. And we finally said, okay, hold on a second. Let me get off this hamster wheel and see what's going on around here. You had something, Omar?
Just to connect with everyone, when you're studying sort of yourself and you know, the story, your story, the story, history, you look back 400 or 500 years, it was only Moors.
Right.
Right? So you have to ask yourself then, because I remember being in school, and all they talked about was the Indians here, or Europe up until about 1600. Everything ended right around then. They never discussed anything back. So on this knowledge, you realize anything before 1500s was the Moors.
Yep.
And that was what ran the world, so to speak. So you then have to ask yourself, why has that stuff been written out of the story on a total broad, on a broad way? It's not even like, okay, you can't even go to university and take more Moorish history or whatever it is.
Right.
It's
It's
as if
not
it
even
doesn't
existent. Yeah.
It's as if it doesn't exist. So then what you're saying is, then you look to the knowledge and say, so what they're trying to say is, the story started in 1500. Why is that?
Right. Another question?
I was just thinking, like, if Moorish America, like, if that was what, so wait, America is the piece of land, but when it was still connected to Pangea, what were those people called? Like, before everything broke up, like, would they be called Pangean?
Let's say
Asiatics.
Let's say Asiatics. Because that concept of the world as one landmass was also called Asia.
It wasn't also called Atlantis too? There was a whole bunch of different names.
And then the crucial too is that human beings weren't the only people walking around at that time.
What?
That too.
What?
Human beings were the only people walking around. So especially when you look at like the Old Testament of the Bible, all of that time, during that whole time, there were other
Nephilims and
two-legged creatures walking around. Neanderthals, higher creatures and lower creatures as well. Right? So things that you would, if you saw from far, you say, oh, that's a person over there. And when you get close, you realize that's not a human being. That's a different species.
Or when you go to ancient monuments and stuff like that, and you see, something like there's a place, I can't remember where it's at, but the place had, like, when they showed different levels, right? And then they showed people on the levels, and the people were like this compared to the levels that they were on. Right?
There's something like that in Peru.
Yeah, I think it was in Peru where it was, right? And the people who were there, the people who are there that are from there are saying that those steps are for giants. Giants used to walk on those steps. This is on Earth. And I'm saying the step was like from across the street to here, and like this side. You know what I mean? Like past here, next level up. That was and it's steps, like this thing is going up or whatever. You know what I mean?
Little people
and people are like people. There's no way who we are use those. No way. You know what I mean? And then people were saying that people were making up stuff about, oh well, when it was what they used it for was they planted there so that when the rain falls, when the water is gonna go down and fertilize all this stuff and then they had all these stuff and then. Some historian or whatever came like, I don't know what these people are talking about. But those are steps. And then everybody's like, what do you mean steps? Steps for who? You know what I mean? So going right back to what Brother Tez was saying, that we have to Another good example was the Avatar movie, right? Where they let you know that maybe everybody here isn't really, you know, who they are. You know what I mean? If we have somebody like, they even have the book Giants, you know what I mean, where they have documented images of people who were 8 feet, stuff like that, in the circus and stuff like that. Being used as, you know, oh, come see the whatever like that. It was Asiatics wearing fezzes, turbans and stuff like that. Giants. Bigger than the average individual, you know? And then we have this thing now where, you know, we say, when the Moors say, ancients return, or, you know, we're gonna come again, or whatever. And then you see, you know, 15-year-old guys, 6'5" and all that stuff. It's real stuff that we were giants at one time. Among other things that we were, that there's no documentation, which is why when you go back to doing your studying on history, like Brother Omar saying, you're only gonna get so far back because they burned so much stuff with regard to the history of the world that certain things we're not even gonna find out. But we can come to the conclusion that, you know, when you see Star Trek and Star Wars and all that stuff, that's not no, all those beings that they got in those came out one guy's imagination or whatever. Doubt that. They had some manuscripts and stuff talking about all those different beings, from Jabba the Hutt to Chewbacca to whoever.
Klingons.
Dark Sith, Klingons, whoever. All these people had some type of existence on the Earth plane at one time, or in the universe, and you know what I mean?
Solar system.
But it's funny though, in those movies, they have like their governments as republics.
Right.
True.
Right.
And they have like so much other stuff in there if you just really pay attention. You know what I
You
mean?
pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're really telling our story.
And all, even what do you call it there? His name, Darth Vader.
Yeah, the Empire.
If you see how his head is shaped, it's like it's. If you look on some of the walls in, he's the face of like a being that's from ancient times.
Yeah.
And even those robots in the X-Men, you know, the big robots, they look like Olmec heads.
Oh, yeah, right. Yes,
Right.
I see that. And the new one that just came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're always.
Have you seen Tarzan?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, they show us a few clips of Moors and Tarzan.
Yeah.
That's documenting too.
Yeah. So it's that real. That once we start reconnecting these things, then we get, you know, the puzzle comes together a little bit more. If we get some more pieces in there, puzzle comes together more, and you know, you come to the realization that these people really didn't do us justice as far as teaching us or whatever like that, and we have to fend for ourselves. And which is why we do what we do, making sure that our people can get the information that's practical to their evolution. Because not everything is practical to their evolution as far as information, especially with our people. You know what I mean? Like we need, you know, like Joe Ali said, he came to us because we needed him the most. Well, our work needs, you know, we need to put more work in than anybody else to fix anything that's going on as far as in our communities or whatever, right? And that's gonna come from people that, you know, hear the information, receive what's being told to them, go fact check, realize that it's real, and they're in the door. And when I'm down with, you know what I mean, assisting my Moorish nation or whatever like that in any way possible, because I know that what this is about, you know. And it's supposed to be open for you to exercise your free will. It's not supposed to be, you know, you get orders and you get how to do it, and well, I want to be a Moor, but how do I be a Moor and stuff like that? You've been a Moor. You're born a Moor. You just didn't have knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Now that you have knowledge of it, now it's time to actually
Be yourself.
you know, be yourself. Because we've been not ourselves for so long that we have all this baggage. Well, with the status comes the baggage. So you correct the status, then the baggage is non-existent now. And now you have freedom to actually do some things to assist. right? Now the last few questions, and probably some of them we might not get to or whatever, but a couple things that we wanted to address with individuals out there making attempts to destabilize again, right? They've had their operatives in place. They've had their operatives in place. We have their operatives in place, and their position is to put out as much information as they can to get you to think that you are not in the right place when you're dealing with your Moorish culture, your Moorish history, right? So somebody on YouTube called it Incumbent. All right, peace, Mark. Somebody on YouTube by the name of the Incumbent National. The Incumbent National sent a, this was his statement and question. All three national governments have a name, style, and title by which they are known in law. And once that name has been given by statute, and then he puts in bracket constitution, which, statute's not a constitution, but the nationals of that free government can act by no other name than that. Governments are public entities and can only act through the agency of the members comprising it. More may be the title to the individual carrying on the government, but what is the name of that government under which the Moors act? What provision of the constitution of that government defines the authority of Moors? In what name is the constitution for Moors written? So, with regard to what name is that government under which the Moors act? The name of the government which we act is the Great Seal. Right? That's an association of Moorish affairs, but it's also a governmental body before Europeans were even here. Right? That's why the symbol has the most ancient symbol on the planet, which is the pyramid. It has nothing to do with Europeans. Right? People are going to come out and say, we are the Moorish American government, and we are the Moorish American party, and we are the Moorish American whatever. If their stuff is not ancient, don't take them serious as they're some governmental whatever of Moors. Right? There's no body of Moors that can claim that they're the government under a name other than Great Seal. Right? Even on the charter, pyramids on there. So it's something ancient that we're tying ourselves to. And people's perspective is always that, the European is the measuring stick for whatever it is that we're doing. The European's not the measuring stick for us. Right? We're Aboriginal and indigenous to the land. We have our own things that we've been doing before they came here, including government. Right? So for Moors have to recognize that their government has been usurped. It's not gone anywhere. Somebody else is using the powers of your government under their name. And they're only doing that because we abandoned it. And we thought that, this over here has nothing to do with us. We thought that everything that has to do with us comes from over there, across the Atlantic, when really things that have been going on here are in existence, especially now that Moors are waking up to the truth about their birthrights. Especially now. There's more reason that the the power of the government is coming back again. Yeah, Omar.
And even to answer this fool's email, I would want proof of where their authority comes from in terms of if they're calling themselves a democracy, they ain't the government here.
Right,
They would have to be a Republican for the
Right.
government.
if they're saying that they're government.
If they're saying they're government, and they're clearly not saying that.
Right.
They're saying they're a democracy.
They're saying democracy.
So alone from that, they can't even tie their authority to the contract that governs here.
Right. Right.
And also, just to tie the Moors, like to tie the Great Seal to see how de jure it is. If you look on the American dollar bill, our seal is on the American dollar bill, so there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction that who they recognize. That is the exact same seal.
Right. Because if you know, like, again, it comes back to people acknowledging and recognizing their own stuff. Right? No different than, you know, people see us with feathers and automatically think Masons. Why y'all think about Masons? Yeah? You look like Masons or whatever? These look like some Masonic stuff. You ain't see no Masons with nothing on their stuff. Masons always have something on their stuff. Always. Masons never have their feathers plain. Right? And their tassels always tacked down. They never have their tassel swinging. Their tassels always tacked down and they always have stuff on it. So as soon as somebody comes to, oh, well, you guys are wearing the Mason stuff and all that, we already know that they're either completely ignorant of facts or they work for the other side, whose job it is to get people to think that, you know, they have nothing to do with this and throw away their own birthright. Right? What provision of the Constitution of that government defines the authority of Moors?
Article 6, Supremacy Clause.
Right? Where's the 5th edition at? Oh no, where's the...
What are you looking for?
Right here. The fifth edition.
Right here.
See if the Constitution's in the back of that. And read Article 6.
Constitution's in the Administrative Handbook, right?
Oh yeah, it should be in there.
It's like,
America's Constitution or America's Constitution?
Yeah, right, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So again, the question was, so what is the name of the government under the Moors? So the Great Seal, right? What provision of the Constitution of that government defines the authority of the Moors? And then Brother Tesla said Article 6. All right, so Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and board of members of several states' legislatures, and all executives and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification of any office or public trust under the United States. So the Article 6 of the Constitution that Moors, that the authority of the Moors is defined in this Article 6, because it tells you in Article 6 that the Constitution and treaties, the authority comes from the treaty. Because without the treaty there would be no Constitution. So as soon as people are trying to tie Moors away from the Constitution, we're not saying that the Constitution is ours. We're not saying that we're obligated to follow anything in it. But we are acknowledging and recognizing that there were things before the Constitution that gives the Constitution its validity and authority, right?
And it's right there, right?
About the Constitution. When was the first meeting held for the Constitution for the United States of America? The first meeting for the Constitution of the United States of North America, which is different than the United States of America. So that's a whole different entity. United States of North America, and then United States of America, and then U.S.A, and then U.S are all different. They're not the same thing going across the board. The first meeting for the Constitution for the and then also too, Constitution for the United States is different than Constitution of the United States, right? It was adopted over a year later on July 2nd, 1788, and went into effect on March 4th, 1789. The Constitution was ratified about 2 years after the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and Morocco, which was ratified the 25th day of Shaban, 1200 Moorish calendar, which corresponds to August of 1787.
So what that's saying is that there was a deal between the so-called United States and Morocco to then cohabitate. And that's what the Constitution was about, which was we the people joining together to create a union here, which has been overthrown.
Right.
And then they're trying to play this game as if we don't exist by writing us out of the history. And then what they did to then cover that was then they created all these corporations to then do the stuff that they're doing.
Right. And then this is why, again,
And then when you sign off and agree to all of that, then it's that contract that they're running on.
that they're running on. And then, again, when we look at the whole concept of the treaty establishing what came later, this is why Barack made the speech talking about how the Muslims helped the United States be United States government, and if it wasn't for the Muslims, or it wasn't for Morocco, they wouldn't even have a United States.
Well, I think he also makes the claim
Right.
that the actual Constitution derives
Comes from Muslim law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Okay. Right, so Constitution, and then in what name is the Constitution for Moors written? The name that the Constitution for Moors is written is Zodiac Constitution. And the Zodiac Constitution was established by a brother by the name of CMB, who got all his things for the Moors filed in the Library of Congress. So nobody can't deny that it's legitimate, because the Library of Congress is not going to accept things into it that are a fraud. So you have this Moorish American, a Moor, prepping nationality card, lesson books, and a constitution, and filing those things in the Library of Congress, so that when all hell breaks loose, Moors could still access their governmental documents, constitution, nationality card, or whatever like that, because even he knew about the sellout in the Moorish movement, which is why he even did what he did. Because Moors were selling this thing out left, right, and center after Noble Drew Ali passed. Like selling this out to the point of bury this and keep it hidden from people for generations. Don't even let them even have any idea about this. To the point where people who were in control of CMB's organization called Clock of Destiny went to the Library of Congress and moved the stuff out so that the people can't have access to it.
Is it back now?
No.
They
They don't even know where that is.
They moved it from the Congress, you said?
They just moved it
Somewhere else.
They moved it somewhere else.
Oh, in the Congress.
In there.
Oh, okay.
Right? And that's from the secretary at the Library of Congress, who went to look when I called to try to get the stuff. And she said that the stuff's not there, but we have the certificates on file. So we could send you the certificates.
Means it was there.
Means
Right.
it's there.
They're not in the right spot.
Right? So it's in the building.
What they're saying is someone went in, it's like, you know,
Right.
you go to the
Yeah, you
spot
go to the
there,
library.
you go for like auto mechanics in that spot, and in there you've got a book on farming. But they've taken that book and then gone and slipped it somewhere else. You gotta imagine this might be
We're talking about,
200,000
yeah,
books.
we're talking about Library of Congress, so it's not like, you know,
Floors and floors and floors
it's like,
and floors
you
of
know,
books.
but again, it doesn't take away from what was done, because you can get the certificates. And the certificates verify that these things were filed there. And they really, that's all we need. To know that, oh, so it's actually in there. All right, cool.
Just getting fine.
Now we can use this as a reference point. And again, you know, just recently, 2 days ago or something like that, Moors used that Zodiac Constitution, back up the 101 questionnaire, in order to go to Walmart to prove to them, because they wanted some type of documentation. You guys say you can't pay taxes, we need to see something. All right, here's the stuff from Library of Congress. You're gonna deny that we have a right to not? Oh, okay, fine. And then they went with it, gave them whatever it is that they requested, right? Because of the legitimacy of the quote-unquote Moorish government, that incumbent national trying to imply that the Moors don't have that and all that stuff. You know, the European has to recognize something. We're self-governing. We don't need no recognition from no Europeans. We don't need acknowledgement from them. We don't need them to say, oh yeah, we see the Moors over there. We don't care whether they notice us or not. Just know that when you cross us, that we're not Negro black colored. So we're not, don't deal with us like how you deal with your property. That's the statement that we're making by presenting ourselves as Moors. That, don't forget, we're not Negro black colored people. So don't try to apply your Negro stuff to us, because we are clearly not like your property. Right?
A quick question to get a copy of the filing, like that's it.
Yeah, for the certificates, you just call them up. They'll send it to you. They're not even.
Yeah, because I have there's certain
There's a lot
time.
more. Please, yo.
Just call them up.
Yeah, you can just call them up, yo,
Okay.
and they'll mail it to you. And I think it's $16, $20 or something like that, or whatever. It's not one. Yeah. So, you're going east after this?
Yeah.
You're going eastbound? You give me a ride when you're leaving? All right. You have something, sis?
I was just wondering if, like, say if the police deal with someone who's Moorish, like in an unjust or violent way, like who are they held accountable to?
And if the police deal with a Moor like that, well, they're supposed to be held accountable by their own jurisdiction, right? But again, because of the pattern of Moors being Negro black colored for so long, they're under the assumption that you're Negro until you prove to me that you're Moor, right? Because it's not like, well, let's say this, in the jurisdiction, quote unquote Canada, there's no de jure like we were talking about. Everything here is de facto. Even Supreme Court is de facto, right? Even Governor General's website says the Governor General is Canada's de facto head of state to the Queen.
It says that?
On the
It says that?
website.
Yeah. Wow.
And the left-hand government.
Right? So it's de facto jurisdiction here. So from Moors who we've seen get accosted by these people, right? Their position was forget sue, forget take them to court, forget whatever. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna put these people on notice. We're gonna put these individuals on notice about the corrupt things that they're doing. Put it on YouTube, put it wherever we gotta put it, so that people know what's going on. One individual, Brother Lanray, he got pulled over, pulled out the car, whatever like that, dragged on the ground, all that stuff. But it happened at a gas station, right? So when he went to the gas station to go get the footage, they were like, nah, police are doing an investigation, we're not giving you nothing, whatever like that. So he took down the names of everybody, you know, there was Petro Canada, from CEO down to whatever, made a video about it. how these people are denying him whatever, whatever. 2 weeks later, he got the stuff in the mail. The same footage they said that they can't give him. Now that he has the footage now, he can show the violations. So had that in his case when he went to court, they got that, and as well put the video online. It's under Canaanland Moors, My Name Is My Name. Right? There's about 7 videos talking about the whole case, talking about everything that went down. He went through all that in order to get the transcript where the judge made a ruling that the identification, which was his nationality card, that he gave is proper identification. And the police didn't have the right to do anything that they did to him. So yeah,
But what was the consequence to the officer?
well, again, we're in a de facto jurisdiction. So you're not gonna sue them in a de facto jurisdiction. It has to be de jure, right?
So what about, isn't it like, can you move in the area of international law?
You can't go to international law until you exhaust everything below that. And they won't let it doesn't, it's not gonna go like that here because they've been doing this corruption for so long. Their dish is tight. And they have their stuff covered from the top down, that as soon as they see certain things, they already know. Don't even let that come across my table or desk or whatever.
Yeah, within Canada too, we gotta understand that there's 2 jurisdictions. There's the civil code, and then there's common law. The only problem is with most people, they're not in their proper person, so they can't even deal with common law.
Right.
But if you're acting in your proper person, Canada has to be able to respect your authority underneath that common law.
Right.
But it's only the fact that people are going into court and they're going into the civil side of the court thinking they're going to stand up for the rights without understanding that there's 2 sides of the court that's being
Right.
played. You got to understand how to get into the common line of the court under your proper person and then sue the man, not the officer,
Right.
because that's just a title.
The actual individual.
You gotta sue the individual as a man as taking like advantage of you or violating your rights or whatnot. That's the only way to do it.
Right.
But you have to be able to claim your common law jurisdiction. You only can do that when you're in your proper person.
Right, and it comes back to the thing again that once Negro, black, colored people start saying that they're Moors, which invokes that common law, because common law comes from ancient foremothers and forefathers, right? Once they start invoking that, then they're gonna block it. Even if you're in proper person or whatever, which is, again, going back to Brother Lonry and him getting the ruling that, because the real issue of why they did what they did to him was because they claim he didn't have a license. Well, judge ruled that the nationality card is proper ID. So that means licenses aren't needed when they stop him. You don't need to give him a license. And again, this is court ruling. Judge said so. For all the Negro, black, colored people or whatever that think that they don't recognize the Moors and they don't recognize this and that about the Moors, well, there's a nationality card on the record in their court that the judge said that's a real ID. They don't have to give you a license, right? And then that's the remedy, not necessarily suing, because really and truly he decided to take one for the team.
Oh, and then ultimately they charged him with some fiat, which was not money, for what he was getting away from. They were trying to put him in jail.
Right.
So ultimately,
And that too. They were trying to get him to do
a year.
A year and a half for no license.
Right.
Another thing to add, when it comes to like suits, right? Like from what I've heard many more say, sometimes the suit is not about a win or a loss. It's just to let them know that you stand on your square.
Right.
Because more times we don't use lawyers, so take away that fee. We don't have to use lawyers. We stand our square, so we don't have to pay a lawyer. Only thing we have to pay is the administrative fee to file, and that's like
To file whatever their suit is.
file whatever the suit is, right? You sue them as, like he said, not as the officer, but or the corporate.
Under the
You sue him personally. He has to go get a lawyer. He has to pay the $5,000 now So next time you gonna might think of twice, like should I get additional $5,000 to pay a lawyer?
So whether you sue them and win or lose, the fact that you don't have a lawyer, you don't have to whatever like that, and they have to, then
But I think
they just got, cause you know, ultimately their argument against you is gonna be, well, he's diverse to me. Me and him aren't the same, so he can't sue me. Is gonna be their argument.
What do you mean?
Their argument's gonna be, I'm European, he's a Moor. He can't sue me because we're diverse. Just like when they say, jury of your own peers. You're supposed to have a jury of your own peers. You're not supposed to be quote unquote black guy, but then all the juries are European. That's diversity.
And this goes back to what
Right.
Cujo brought up before, which was the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which has to do with the treaty which outlined exactly how certain situations would go between the two parties. Therefore, and it goes into, because it was basically back in the day, a lot of stuff had to do with being on the water, which is how most of us did our business. So what would happen is, if you were caught in their land, you were supposed to be given back to your people. If they were caught in our land, we were supposed to give them back. If crimes were committed there, it was basically what it was outlining the fact that we had our own stuff and you had your own stuff. That stuff has been overthrown. So that's where things have changed, but that's generally what should happen, but we're not. What they did was, under a corporate activity, they were able to get you under their thumb. And this is what Cujo and they were explaining, that once you start exercising under your own jurisdiction, they really have to leave you alone. But they can't let that stuff out of the bag, because then it breaks all their stuff up. So ultimately, that is where the issue is. But to get back to what you were talking about the charges and getting off the stuff, some of the stuff that we as Moors who are being active want to, or I want to remind you, continue to remind people, is that we're really about not getting ourselves into situations with those people.
Right.
It's not about going out there to battle those people down. You're really supposed to be enforcing the law, not trying to break it. So, and because really, yet again, what it is when you get into these situations, you're ultimately right. But remember, they're taking your energy to pay that guy up at the desk there, or that judge, and all of those people are being paid by your energies. So really what you want to do is make sure to never be in there. And that's the whole point, right? To make sure that you're not in those venues. Because yet again, you're out there making, let's say, money for connotatively for your family. If you have to take off 15, 20 days in a year to go to court to battle them down to them, have them throw it out, you just lost those 20 days. Meanwhile, they're taking your tax dollar connotatively again to pay them.
So my other question was, when you have that nationality card, are your other identifications void?
If,
Like say my driver's license, my ID that I already have, like from Ontario.
yeah, it's supposed to be based on you making a reclamation of who you are, right? Again, because we're dealing with de facto people, that's not gonna be something that they just do just because we say that we're Moors now or whatever, right? Which is where it comes into learning to live within contracts, because you're going to detach yourself from those things in pieces. You're not gonna go cold turkey, right? You're gonna separate yourself from those things based on what you're going through with those things. So, if, we use the example of if somebody's driving for a living and they find out about this, they're not throwing their license away, because then they throw away their livelihood that they've been doing for the past 20 years, and they built up whatever, and they want to get their pension and all that stuff. Well, why throw that out just because you found out that licenses are a fraud? It's not. All right, well, please more. You've been using it, right? You exercised with it. You know what I mean? Like we even use the example of there's Moors with licenses that still beat tickets when they go to court with a license. They go to court as Moors with a license that doesn't have Moorish name on it and still beat tickets. Because it's not about the instruments, it's really about what the law is. What does the law state? You know what I mean? Because, you know, as soon as you get into it's about the instruments, then you're gonna have that same perspective when you get the nationality card. That, oh, it's about the card, because once I know the card, you show the card, then knows whatever. When there's instructions from Noble Juali about showing your card to Europeans, you know, you shouldn't do that because that's your card for your salvation. They don't necessarily need to know like that.
So what about the birth certificate then?
Oh, that's it, all right. Go ahead, sis.
What about the birth certificate? Like, say you have the nationality card, or you identify yourself as a Moor, and then you have a child. Like, can you just birth your child and not get them a birth certificate?
Yeah, that's what's supposed to go down. You know, it's no different than you know, you have the knowledge of you know, the right to travel. That you don't need a license. But again, we're dealing with the thing of because of the occupation, you have to pick your battles. Like you can't assume that they're just gonna go with it because, well, you know, we got law dictionaries. The law dictionary said whatever, so this must be right because it's a law dictionary. So all we gotta do is tell it to them, and then they're gonna be down with it.
And on another note, they can't let that go because then the whole system falls apart. So don't think that you're ever going to be. There's never going to be a decision in your favor. They're just going to throw it out, or they're going to walk away. So don't think that you're ever getting any. Okay, you're right, we're wrong. It's
Right.
over for them. Once that happens, it's done. That's not happening anytime soon. More likely until we have these places filled, until everyone's exercising. So don't ever think about
And also too that when you're asking about what happens to those instruments, remember that all those things are void from they were created.
Right.
You're just
Like,
backing them up with
you
your
know,
energy.
we're giving them power by using them, having them, or whatever, but they're void instruments. So as soon as you know, we come into this information and we recognize that well, I have all these other things. What am I supposed to do with all these other things or whatever? It's no different than a woman who gets married and then her name changes. It's not a question of change all the stuff. You're just gonna do that automatically. You're not thinking about, well, I just got married and my new name, should I change all my stuff on there and all that stuff? It's not even a thought. Automatically you're gonna do that because your name is different. It's the same thing. The only thing is that you don't have to go change those stuff. You have what it is now that's supposed to identify you. And then based on your knowledge of self, you'll be using that thing moving forward. But then again, you have certain situations where pick your battles. You might not want to, you know, like it's like we were saying with Brother Supreme. You know, like his license or the license wasn't expired, nothing like that. You know, it was good. He could have just showed the license. They might not have did nothing to him. But with the mentality of knowing how these people are when they have jurisdiction, you know, to keep yourself out of jurisdiction, forget giving them anything having to do with their jurisdiction. I'm gonna give you something having to do with my jurisdiction. Whether you accept it or not, that's on you. I really don't care personally. Because I'm standing on the fact that I already gave you something, so you don't need to get anything else. You don't need something else on top of that to prove that I am whatever. I'm telling you who it is right now. Right? And it's a battle, again, because these people have been doing colorable actions. These people have been doing fraud for so long. They got comfortable doing their fraud. Now they got people that are standing up against their fraud. And once we stand up to their fraud and they admit that they're fraud or they yield, then that's precedent on our part. That these people should be, you know what I mean, impeached, hung out here, put against the wall, firing squad or whatever, because they've been running fraud in land that's not theirs. That they know. They admit that they came over here and killed people and stuff like that. So it's not like, you know what I mean, we're wrong for saying we don't want their birth certificate, we don't want your license, because there's a track record of what happens to people who has those stuff. That creates a jurisdiction. And we're saying you don't have jurisdiction because I don't have none of your stuff. And even if I do have your stuff, I have it under threat, duress, and coercion, which in international law is violation again. So, and again, they're constantly violating. Their purpose is to violate. That's who they are. Don't excuse that they, they got some integrity or whatever like that. Because we got some integrity now because we're standing up for our rights and we're not black and we know that that's don't think that they're looking at it like that. They want us to stay black. They want us to stay African, this, and we came over here on slave ships and all that because by us living that lie, that makes them have authority. Because that's their story that they told. So if we're backing their story, then obviously those guys are right if we're backing their stuff.
Just to add, right, if you're using their instruments like driver's license or like you always say, reserve your rights. Because when you reserve your rights on their instruments, then that's just saying that whatever fraud that they're doing, that you're protecting yourself from their fraud.
Right.
And it's that simple as just reserving your rights, because anything I sign now, even if it's stuff that it might seem like, put it this way, anywhere I put my signature, I put all reserving rights. I don't care what it is. It might just be just like some little sign-in sheet.
Scribble here.
I don't know, sign-in sheets because I'm just signing because I'm going to this building.
Right.
I'm reserving my rights because I have that right. And I don't know what kind of fraud you might do after.
You might engage.
And then you're gonna blame me. Well, I reserve my rights, so you and your fraud could go away because it doesn't apply to me because I'm not your corporate entity that you're trying to abuse.
Right.
So.
I heard that, I don't know if you said it, UCC 1-103 is
Yeah.
enough now?
Well, all rights reserved is more enough than the UCC being enough. I would use all rights reserved before I use the UCC only. I'll use all rights reserved only, opposed to using the UCCs only, because the rights don't have anything to do with commerce like that, right? So if you use all rights reserved only, that in itself is making a statement. Whereas the UCC is up to speculation because they have to go check to see what that is, because you can't really put UCC 1-0 means right on stuff. And if you're leaving it on them to check, probably they're not going to check, more likely. But everybody knows what all rights reserves means when you put that on the documentation or on the line before you sign, because not that anything's wrong with using the UCCs, but to use it on its own doesn't have the same power. It doesn't state clearly what the point that you're trying to make, unless they go check to see what UCC whatever is. And most of the time they're not going to check. They're not really on it like that to make sure that they're following the law or whatever like that, because they're de facto, they're going to do their inquisition practices, whether you reserve your rights or not. They're going to do their thing, but yeah, I wouldn't use the UCCs alone over all rights reserved alone. Either all rights reserved and UCCs, or all rights reserved only, but I wouldn't use the UCC codes alone for reservation of rights.
Let's write mine's on my license, the license.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's write it. Look at it. Sometimes soon they see that license that I had there, that license, soon they see it.
Yeah.
They thinking something else, you know what, keep on. They didn't even bother to me.
Right, yeah.
Even when I go to the ministry, even the girl tell me to take off my hat, I said, what are you talking about? Who you see here, that's who I am. You're gonna take the picture or what? Look at my picture. My friends at work told me, you can't take picture with the hat on your head. Oh, I blow off my clothes, go to the ministry, and look at me now. Just blow off my working clothes, straight to the ministry.
Right.
And look at me.
And again, it's when we look at the ignorance of the people, right? The ignorance of the people. Well, how do you do that? You can't take a picture with a hat. Well, how about it's not a hat? That's why I can take the picture with it on. So that has nothing to do with hats. That's irrelevant. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
All rights,
Right.
all rights reserved.
Oh, the AL, don't you see the AL on the reserve all here at the end?
Right? And then, and again, it's, you know, even something as minimal as that, writing all rights reserved on a paper, they'll fight you. True. They'll try to back you down from just doing that little thing right there. They'll try to back you down. Now, no, you can't do that. That's not really your signature. Let me see something else that is like that. It's not. That's not their right to tell you what your signature looks like or whatever.
But
They're
then,
just supposed to accept it.
but then if you stand your ground with the knowledge, and you stand your ground with your knowledge, and you make nothing of something, then I guess we all have a big problem here now.
Well,
Right?
well, again, you know what I mean? Like we were saying earlier, that there's Moors who use nationality card to get on a plane. There's Moors who done it and failed. Question is why those guys failed? Because those guys did it. Just like Brother Norm. His has fez on, all rights reserved, all that. And then certain Moors, they show you theirs and it's not the same. And we have to ask the question, well, how come his one went through and how come this one? You know, it could either be the clerk that they dealt with at the counter, didn't know, whatever like that, blah, blah, blah. Or it could be that individual's energy. Because that individual energy isn't really that they're more. They're more externally, but inside they're still nigger. And the stuff's not gonna work if you're Negro with a fez on. Stuff's not gonna work if you have in your mentality, oh yeah, we came here on a slave ship, but I'm more. Right? Because you know, the studying of the information is supposed to change your mindset, which is supposed to change your energy. So that these people already know that, you know what, we're not even gonna mess with this guy. Let him do anything that he says that he wants. Especially when you make the call to supervisor. Supervisor, you need to come here a second, because this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I need to talk to you. And then he talks to supervisor, oh yeah, go ahead, just do it or whatever, it doesn't matter. Oh, so how come this guy was fighting me so hard about it when you just came, oh, because they don't know. All right, cool, we'll go with that. You know, now a supervisor comes, the supervisor is fighting you about, well, maybe it's you. Maybe something's wrong with your energy. Maybe you don't study enough. Maybe you haven't put in the time that you should have put in before you start exercising certain things. Like we say, throw you a hammer for the first time, you're gonna hit your finger a couple times. Because you think, you know, you gotta hold the nail and, you know, you gotta hit this thing with, you know, and then you end up banging your finger 5 times. When it might not have to be like that. You could probably give it some light taps, you know what I mean, if you know what you're doing. And then you move your finger after the nail's standing there by itself. Now you can hit the hell out of it. Don't hit the hell out of it with your finger on it. Obviously you might miss it and damage yourself. Right? And again, it comes back to the idea of people getting hurt because they're doing stuff premature. You know, they take an E-pill, think they could jump off buildings and stuff like that. That's not the reality. Gravity is gonna prove to you that that's not a reality. Right? And again, and then there's people who don't get injured. You know, and the question is why? Why is it that this guy was able to get on a plane with a nationality card? Because he knows himself. He's not in the dark about who I am. He knows himself so sure that he emanates that he knows himself. Like that energy of him knowing himself actually is his perfume. They're smelling him down there. Oh, you know yourself, don't mess with that one. Oh, here's one that doesn't know, let's go get him or whatever. And they do that all the time. All the time.
Right.
The ones who they know, they leave them people alone. The ones who don't know, those people are going to get challenged. Those people are going to have some issues. They're going to have some battles that they're going to have to deal with.
Right, because a lot of time we like to assume that they don't know, and a lot of time they do know.
Right,
Some of these Europeans, they know exactly what's going on.
exactly.
But they play the fool to see if you know.
Right.
And they'll call you, they'll say, oh, you're not native Indians. I'm like, do I look like an Indian to you?
Right.
Then you see, I'm original, indigenous. I'm the first people on this planet. Right? I never try to, I just say I'm the first person on this planet. So if I'm the first person on the planet, then how are you telling me that?
I'll shut down the European.
Right? It's like, well, what? I'm the first person on the planet. This is not no contradiction. Everybody knows that now. It's not even a mystery. Like, it's not even debatable. They'll anywhere, everybody will tell you that. So, what's your problem?
Yeah.
Oh well, I've never seen this. I'm not doubting you, but I've never seen this before. But I was like, you know what? Let me talk to your manager because
Right.
since you're incompetent,
Since you don't know,
right?
since
It's
you never
like,
seen this before.
Yeah.
talk
Well,
to somebody who
well,
might
my
have seen
manager's
this
not
before.
here. Okay, well, give me her number. Give me the head office's number
Yeah.
because I'm complaining on you. Then 2 days later, you see the clerk coming back and say, oh, okay, well.
I called or
Yeah. Oh, it's okay.
we
we'll do
recognize it
yeah.
now. Right? They always and you know it comes back to the thing about like what you were saying that well what remedy are we getting? The remedy we're getting is to be able to exercise our rights. That's really the money from the lawsuit. You know what I mean? The money from the lawsuit is not, oh, they violated me, give me 50 million. The money from the lawsuit is, I sued you guys, now you're gonna leave me alone. You're not gonna bother me when you see me now, because you know that I have the power to go in this place, pay my 300 and file a suit on individuals personally, not their corporation who they work for. And trust me, you take somebody to court, trust me, they'll leave you alone. You know what I mean? Right? As the information gets in you and you start to realize what you know, then you're gonna exercise certain things. Just like what the brother's saying, like, you know, everything that they will come at you, you have a rebuttal. They're not even gonna be able to talk or bring up anything or whatever. Everything that, you always gotta answer for them. But that only happens with studying. That only happens with knowing. You know what I mean? Even your brother Rakael got pulled over a couple nights ago. And right?
2 nights ago, yeah.
And the idea, they were coming from the perspective of, well, where is your this and where is your that and where is your this, and you know, he's just standing on, well, I'm not driving. I'm traveling. Driving means that I'm engaging in commerce on the public roadway. I'm just going home.
Driving means what, sorry?
You're engaging in commerce. Or you're making money behind the wheel.
Like a TTC,
Taxi
driver,
cab driver, or Uber or whatever like that. You need a license. Truck driver, you need a license. If you're just going from A to B, license does not apply to you because you're not engaging in commerce. So he was standing on that. And standing on, well, I don't need to give you a license. I'm giving you a nationality card. I have a license that I can give you. I have one. It's not expired or nothing like that. It's good. It's not suspended, nothing like that. But I'm not driving. So why do I need to give that to you? Right? Now, no, he had he had expired temporary plates, right? He had the insurance paper that they give you before you get the pink thing, and no license. And then they gave him ticket for no license, they gave him ticket for no insurance, and they gave him ticket for expired plate. Now, expired plate is a tow.
Supposed to tow you.
They're not letting you drive off with no expired plate. No insurance, they're definitely not letting you drive off with no insurance. Like, you're getting your car towed, you're gonna come pick it up, pay your $200 a day, whatever BS that they're talking about. And you know, with the license, occasionally they let people off or whatever. So we know for sure that if you don't got no insurance, even if you have that paper, they're telling you that no, you can't continue on with that. You know what I mean? They're not letting you do that, but they let them do that. And then we also know that when you get insurance, no insurance tickets, they give you summons. They don't give you tickets. Because no insurance is a $5,000 fine. There's no ticket for $5,000. They're telling you you're going to court. Here's the tickets for no license and no plates, but here's the summons for court for the insurance. How come you never got summons? Because they don't have jurisdiction to do that. And then they're dealing with quota, so, you know, the best thing they could do is give tickets, because summons don't mean nothing as far as their quota is concerned. They're not getting that money. They want the money that they're gonna get. And the only way they're getting money is tickets. So they're gonna make sure that, you know, he leaves with something. But remember that for the insurance, he has. So that one's beat. That one should get thrown out, right? No license, he wasn't driving, and he gave them ID, which is legitimate ID based on Brother Lonray's case. You know what I mean? Court already ruled our nationality card is ID, so that. And the only issue that he might have is the plates one with the expired sticker. But again, that's a temporary plate, so you know those expired. And the real plate, it's not like he didn't have one on there. He had one on there, so you know that could get dropped, or they might just say, you know what, forget it, we don't want to deal with this, and throw out everything, whatever. So we'll see how it goes. But you know, we push the concept that if you engage these people on the roadway out here or whatever like that, and you get to go home,
Trust me.
everything went well. I don't care what they give you.
Even tell him safe job.
Yeah.
Drive safely.
Drive safely, right?
So you didn't arrest
You know?
him?
No. No arrest. Let him leave
Let him
Until
with the
travel
car. Yeah,
safe.
let him travel. Yeah, let him travel
But
home.
still gave him tickets,
We'll
right?
give him the tickets. But let him travel home though.
Backward.
Yeah. But let him travel home though. And again, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, that's yeah, you got tickets, but we could fight those, but you got to go home. You know what I mean? And really that's what it's about when you deal with these people. They're not kidnapping you, you get to go home regardless of what they do, because we already know that we can go to court and beat these people up with their ticket BS. Right?
For the case like you're talking about, is that for up here or was
Yeah,
that in
yeah,
American?
that was here, yeah.
401 and somewhere there.
Lonray, Ontario Court of Justice versus Lonray Obey, should be. I should have the track. I have the transcripts and everything like that. I think you have the transcripts on.
And that's on Canaanland Moors?
No, it's the transcripts are he has those in his possession.
Okay.
So, but I think he has them digital.
Mm-hmm.
You could email it or whatever.
Alright.
I think it's in a PDF or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just shoot me an email for that, and
Alright.
we'll get that. We'll get that to you.
But I also want to add it just before you go on that when you're on the information exercising your right, you gotta realize that you have to follow like the 5 principles. Like, I mean, nobody's perfect. Yes, we're gonna have our little hiccups where we do our little things, but that's just part of our learning, right? Of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I think as long as you have good intents or good intentions in whatever you're doing, then like the prophet says, if you're honor your forefathers and your foremothers and your ancestor, they will be backing you, right? So if you're not, if you're exercising as a Moor, and they see that you're doing it with the best intentions that you have, yes, we might falter by the way because it's a process. Like, you know what I mean? Even the most adept Moors will still get his hiccups.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with me, I remember when I went to court and they wanted to do an ex parte because I stand on my square, and they're like, okay, well, sit down, we're gonna do the case like you're not here. And I just want to state for the record that, okay, well, I'm gonna sit down under death threat and coercion. So, and before I could even finish saying that, they're jumping on top of me, the bailiffs were jumping on top of me, dragging me out of court. So whatever, right? So I'm like, well, whatever. I know you guys are just doing your bullshit to make sure other people, to discourage other people.
Right.
So they're there, running off the trap. I'm not even saying anything. They're saying, oh, say that you are the straw man. Even when they had me in the room, they're still trying to make me come to say I'm the straw man. I'm like, whatever, I ain't saying shit to you guys, whatever. Apparently, I had a warrant for, cause when I got the ticket, I had some weed on me, so they gave me a promise to appear, which I thought it was a ticket at first, but I didn't go, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So then now they take me to the court cells, I'm down in the court cells, whatever, I'm thinking I have to go to the bullshit again, whatever, you know? An hour later, they let me out. There's like, sign yourself out, turn yourself in whenever you want. There's Vaughn doesn't want to come for you. I'm in Brampton, traffic court. The division is like 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to come for me.
Yeah.
They let me out. I'm like, this is when I was totally convinced that stand on my
It's real.
square is real.
It's real.
It doesn't matter, you have a warrant. It doesn't matter if it's for jaywalking. You have a warrant, they got you.
Right.
And they let me out. And it's like, turn yourself in whenever you want. It's almost 4 o'clock. We want to get out of here. Like, you know, we don't want to deal with this shit. Nobody wants to deal with this
And
shit.
on that too, just to deal with one of the other questions, there's I have one of these YouTube trolls that like to come on our videos and make comments about stuff. 500 million comments about stuff. So, you know, his thing or her thing or whatever is, well, show us something in court there you guys won and all that stuff. And, you know, as much as we try to stress the fact that, you know, there's nothing to show as far as Moors winning in court. One, because those aren't courts, right? Those are administrative tribunals, so they're not courts. Two, if they let it go on the record that a Moors case got dismissed, then that's precedent for other people who aren't even on this info, but the fact that they seen that, hold on a second, a Moor his stuff got dismissed or whatever, they're gonna go check into it. And these colonists can't have that. They can't have people willingly, because they said something, checking to see if, let me just check this out and see if this is legit and if this is real. Because, you know, our God, the white man who owns that court, said that the Moors stuff got dismissed. They'll check if a European says it. Guaranteed, they'll check, right? So, you know, when situations like that come up, it's word of mouth. That's not making precedent in no court. That's word of mouth. We're going on the strength that he went through the situation as to what went down. And then we're going with that because, you know, his status, Moorish American or whatever like that, so, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't we go with that? That's our brother that went through a situation or whatever. We don't need some European's version to justify to us whether this is legit or not. We're going with the fact that he had a warrant and they let him out to prison. We'll go with that before we go with some precedent that some European set, right? And again, it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, that there's these individuals that their duty and their purpose is to have you turtle with this info, right? They want you to move. They want you to be moving like molasses with this info. When it's supposed to be received and then exercised with the vigor and power and force and everything else, like it's you know, blinking, breathing, walking. That's how it's supposed to be exercised. It's not supposed to be looked at like, you know, slow motion. This is supposed to be in real time, all the time, because of how real it is. You know what I mean? And when we have, you know, people wanting examples of, show me a Moor that won in court and stuff like that, and then we tell them Muhammad Ali, and then say, well, he's not a Moor. Well, his name's Ali. That's a Moorish name. What are you talking about? That doesn't count. Doesn't matter whether he said he's a Moor or not. The name that they got on the record is Ali. Noble Ali is named Ali. And Noble Ali is a Moor, so, and then he's a Moor because Ali is a Moorish title of nobility. So why is it that we can't use Muhammad Ali? Like, how come? Why not? There's a Moor that won in court.
That's a
And
serious
it's documented.
Very serious one, because it's
Very
war.
serious one.
War the man's supposed
Yeah.
to go. War.
Yeah. He was supposed to go to war.
Yeah, that's very serious.
Right?
Not a traffic
So
ticket.
there's a more that won in court. That, you know, they'll never go there. But, you know, we always got to pull them back to remind them that, remember, Elijah Muhammad and Fard Muhammad were members of Moorish Science Temple before they were heads of the Nation of Islam. So when we say that, when we say Cassius Clay said, don't call me Cassius Clay, call me Muhammad Ali. Because Cassius Clay is not my name, that's slave name and all that stuff, my name is now whatever like that. We know that Elijah Muhammad and them people taught him Moorish science.
Yeah.
Because that's more stuff.
We know they taught him name correction.
Yeah.
We know they taught him, if you're saying, if you're not Negro, black, colored, you better have nationality or whatever like that if you're going to court with these people. We know that he was taught that. Because he even came out and said, don't call me black Muslim. Call me Muslim, which means that you're not black. If he's not black, then that's Noble Drew Ali lesson that you're not black. Black people don't teach that we're not black people.
No.
Only Moors teach that we're not black people. So if Muhammad Ali's gonna say, don't call me black, and that's on the record that he said that, then clearly he was taught something relative to this information. Right? And every time we have a Moor that is unconscious that they're a Moor, but they're doing things relative to Moors, we have to acknowledge that they're Moors. Even if they're unconscious, right? Hence, using Muhammad Ali as a reference point. Because, you know, the world recognizes him, right? Not only that, if they're gonna push about he's not a Moor and why Moor is using him as a reference point and all that stuff, if he's not a Moor, how come during his funeral somebody came and put the Moroccan flag on the car?
Yeah. And nobody take it out.
Why they put that flag on the car? How come somebody put the Moroccan flag, this same flag right here, how come they put this over the car that was carrying his casket? If he's not a Moor. If he has nothing to do with this information, why didn't they put a Nation Islam flag on this stuff? Why didn't they put some black flag? RBG flag or whatever. They put this. Clearly somebody knew something.
How do you pick your name? Like Ali, Bay, or Al? Like how do you decide?
The titles of nobility, El, Bey, Al, Day, and Ali. Ali, we tell people, don't use that, because that's also one of the names of Allah. And if you're not Allah, probably, if Allah never came to you personally or whatever, you might not want to be using Allah's name for stuff, if you got nigger stuff going on. Al and Day are more for Southern America jurisdiction and across the Atlantic. Right? So you'll see across the Atlantic Al, whatever, Al this, Al that, Al another. L and Bay. Bay is relative to governors. L or Bay is also relative to enforcers of law. El is relative to God, Canaanite God. His name was El. You know what I mean? If you study those, Day, Al, Bay, El, and Ali, in studying that, something's gonna gravitate with you. And then you go with what vibrates with your being, right? It's because it's yours. It's not you know what, oh, well, you know, somebody give me the name because of, it's yours.
Like, for
It's
example,
birthright.
my son with the slave name, I give him Al as his middle name.
Mm.
And I didn't know when I did that. So now I use it for mine with the Bay.
Okay.
But like I did that not knowing what I was doing. My first son, his middle name is Al, A-L. That's his middle name.
Right, under the guys, you know, Albert, you know, short form, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that was spirit talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
That made him do that,
20-something years ago, and I didn't know that.
right? And then if you're going from that perspective, spirit first, then you would have more things to influence you as to where you should go with it. Because you know, like we say, this is a divine and national movement. So the divinity part of this is activated by the individual who realizes that this is divine. Realizes that, you know, whatever it is that you're doing today, you're here. That was divine. You know what I mean? However you found out about here, that was divine. You know, that there's this divine intervention that's always taking place that we don't always acknowledge or realize that that's really what's happening, that the spirit world is coming onto the earth plane to hold your hand and draw you to some stuff. And then it's going to be on you to realize that that's what's going on, or this has nothing to do with me and all that. I'm going to be black because black people and all that stuff. You know, everybody has a right. You know, you have a right to be intelligent, you have a right to be a damn idiot. Take your pick.
You know, another thing with this black thing sometimes, every February they say Black History Month.
Right.
And while they saying Black History Month, they shouted Martin Luther words. A man should not be determined by the color of his skin.
Right.
And at the same time they say Black History.
Right.
Black.
Right.
Same time you say you're not supposed to be determined by the color of your skin. And at the same time they're telling you say you're black.
But then remember the other part, he should be considered by the content of his character.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're using
Mm-hmm.
to say that we're not giving these people nothing.
Yeah.
Because your character is messed up if you're calling yourself black.
Black, yeah.
So it's not, but they're going with, oh, well, it's our skin color.
Yeah.
The Europeans going with, you have no character.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're calling yourself something that's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing too, with regard to picking the name, natal charts. Get a natal chart done. Then in the natal chart, you would have your breakdown as to your attributes that make up yourself. And then those things are gonna tell you whether B or L or whatever as
Where
well.
do you find that?
Hmm?
Like, how do you get that done?
Yeah, you could just Google, you could do it online, or you could we know brother, yeah, and time. Yeah.
What if you're born in?
You could put it in. You can put it in yourself, but like for myself,
Mhm.
I get an astrologer to do it.
True.
Like I want, you know, even though you could just do it yourself,
Mhm.
I go to a little extra and have an astrologer do it. So we got brother Hassan
Okay.
does astrology, Sister Selah does astrology, Sister Sharice. There's a few more. I give you some numbers,
Okay,
some
okay.
people to, you know what I mean. And you know that's their sphere where they're at. You know what I mean. But it would assist with the other names as well. You know what I mean? Because if you know, there are people say, you know, he's Brother Supreme again. His mom named him Merrick. And he's like, I don't want that name, that's not whatever like that, I'm gonna call myself whatever. And then you went and go research Merrick, and Merrick means more.
And she didn't know.
And she, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's just what she named him. And when he went and did the research on it, so also too, whatever name you got, research that just to be sure, because you know, spirit. If the spirit's working, then that name that you got, there's probably some behind the scenes stuff that your parents never told you about why you're named what you're named or whatever. That they don't even know. You know what I mean? It's like stuff in the ethers, you know?
For me though, like I just added to my name because at birth, my mother gave me my given name, and my grandmother, like I got a pet name because most Caribbean have a pet name. So my mother gave my pet name and my grandmother gave me my name. So I'm thinking, well, you know, to me that's de jure because it's not coming from de facto and exactly so. And when I research it, it basically said something favorable, which seems like, you know, okay, whatever. So then I just added something like I used to use even before I was into the Moors, or even I just was using the name Osiris as my YouTube name. So I've been using it from time, even before so I just like, you know what, I just keep using it because I've been using it. And researching the meaning, and to me, it resonates with me. So it's like whatever resonates with you.
Right.
There's no really wrong or right. It's just what whenever, as long as you're not using the slave master's name, which is the
last name.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then basically it's just what resonates with you the most. You know, and what inspires you, however it goes. Like, you know within your heart how it feels like, and you'll like, you know, your journey of studying will lead you to your name, most likely.
You had comment, question?
Oh, like if your family comes from the Caribbean but you're born in Europe, you can still claim nationality for the Americas?
Yep, because nationality is through the mother.
Sorry, what was your question?
Like if you're born in the European territory, but your family's from the Caribbean, from the Americas originally, which a lot of us know, a lot of people migrate over there.
Yeah. Because people have this thing about I'm born here, so I'm. When that's not right and exact, because you couldn't try that in China. I'm born here, so I'm Chinese. They're like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Right? But then that's the European psychology. I'm born here, so I'm American. Well, no, you look European. He's saying you're American. But then, you know, we go back to these little lessons that we were taught about status, jurisdiction, and all that stuff by even black leaders. Because even El Hajj, Malcolm, said being born here, or being a kitten born in the oven doesn't make it biscuits. Right? Saying the exact same thing. Being born here doesn't make you citizen. You have to be tied to here. Now, how are you tied to here? What kind of citizen are you? Are you, serf? Are you ward? Are you corporate citizen? Natural citizen? Or does the citizenry even apply to you? Are you a national of a nation? You know what I mean? Like there's these, little things or whatever, right? So the people who are in so-called, UK or whatever like that, England, whatever, that have descendancy of the islands, then they're American. But they've been taught they've gone somewhere and they went somewhere, and wherever they go, that means that because they have a passport or they have a citizenship card or they have some type of visa for whatever, goes back to the same thing of them assuming that certain people have authority. I'm assuming that there's really a British monarchy. There's really a queen and those stuff. They're not the people who are claiming they're black are really the queen and stuff of England. You know what I mean? They got letters from the queen talking about, we're not going to call them Moors anymore, call them black people and all that stuff, because we're taking this over and all that. Like telling them. But if they don't study to know that they have ties to that place.
But I think isn't there a flag from England and some black heads around or something?
Yeah. That's the crest.
Yeah. Crest, yeah.
If you get Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers, has all those stuff in it, all those crests in it. Or even if you just Google it, Blackamoor heads on family crests in Europe, and then they'll come up. You know what I mean? I know we got 15 minutes. What is Moorish American government? Because a brother sent in sent a question. Brother sent a question with he saw this glyph circle 7, or the circle, the broken circle with a crescent and star in it, and then it's going back to Moorish American government, right? And he was asking, well, what's this or whatever. So for this group of Moors, Moorish American government, this is their national emblem, right? Now, the reason that this was founded was because an individual, an elder by the name of Pleasant Bay, was Moorish Science Temple. When he was in Moorish Science Temple of America, the sellouts of that jurisdiction, for whatever the reason was, can't remember, but whatever the reason was, they took him to court, ran him through the grinder. Moors did that to him. So his beef is with these Moors that in his experience found out that a lot of these people in Moorish Science Temple that claim that their heads or whatever are Christian, ex-Christian pastor type guys that came into the movement to cause confusion. A lot of these people who say that they're Moorish Science Temple heads or whatever like that are Masons. Still right now, in secret, they're Masons, but they're coming out posing like they're Moors for the Moorish nation or whatever. So he started up this Moorish American government because of the issues that he had with these Moors, right? As when we first came into the information and we were studying with Pleasant Bay, Canaanland was one of the offices of the Moorish American government, and I was the head of the Office of Education and Truth, because I did classes, I did certain things, you know what I mean? And it's being involved with it wasn't to take away from, all right, please go with that. Being involved with it doesn't take away from, for me, it doesn't take away from Moorish movement. Like, I'm not abandoning the Moorish movement to go be part of something that started, you know, yesterday, when this been around since 1913. And I'm not letting dirty Moors try to make me think that this doesn't have any legitimacy because they're dirty or whatever like that. So I should, you know, not be part of this, but go be part of some other stuff that's going on out there. So that's all that is, Moorish American government. But, you know, what we could say is make sure that you get the books, Exhuming of a Nation, the Book of Ali, and this book right here, Last Prophecies, or the Moorish Literature, right? They are still in existence. They're doing what they do, getting the word out to the people about, you know, the prophet, nationality, and birthrights and all that. And then the last question was Brother Garcia L. Expound on the 5 Moorish titles, right? So we did that. Are they derivatives of the 5 tribal names? So when they say the 5 tribes, we tie the titles of nobility to the 5 civilized tribes. When the so-called Indians especially out here, say 6 nations. 6 nations is a tribe. 6 nations isn't, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nations that make up the whatever. 5 civilized tribes been in existence. 6, that's why they call it 6 nations, because they come after 5 tribes. Right? They're not included in the 5 tribes. 6 nations is separate.
Okay.
That's why they're 6.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't say they're 1 to 6 tribes. They call themselves 6 tribes.
What are the 5 tribes?
Al,
Oh, the, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
they, and then under those you have, Cherokee, Chippewa, blah, blah, blah. Iroquois, Algonquin, blah, 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 blah. And then it breaks down like that. But the 5 civilized tribes were the Aboriginal indigenous Moors that were in this land before everybody else was here, right? Can you talk about Mu? Mu's being a land bridge between Amexem, Africa today, and Northwest Amexem. So, alright, so they did it already. Alright, so New Atlantis is right here. And then we know that Atlantis was right here because they call this Atlantic Ocean. And Atlantic is a derivative of Atlantis, right? Or a corruption of Atlantis. So this is really supposed to be Atlantis Ocean. All these places that we call so-called Caribbean are really mountaintop peaks of Atlantis that fell, right? Which also means that these aren't just some stuff floating in the ocean or whatever. They're actually tied to the mainland, right? We're just, the Caribbean Sea has become, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, even a little bit outside of the jurisdiction would have been where all the land of Atlantis is, right? You can also go into doing your research on Churchward family. I can't remember the grandson, but one of them is Albert Churchward. You can just research them; they'll give you the fullness on the whole Mu history and its tie to the Americas and all that.
New or Mu?
Mu. M-U.
M-U?
Yeah. Yeah, Mu Atlantis. And again, when you have things like history like Mu and all that, you're going into now Egyptian history because there was pharaohs that had colonies. There's pharaohs that had colonies in Mu, pharaohs that had colonies in the Americas. Right? This is why, for people who don't know, Indiana Jones movies and all that stuff, National Treasure and those type of movies are dealing with the Egyptian history in the Americas. But they tell it in movie form, so people think that that ain't real and all that stuff. But they got pyramids over here. They found all types of Egyptian stuff in the Grand Canyon. Smithsonian Institute found so much stuff here that they put stuff on a boat and sent it out into the middle of the ocean and tipped the boat over because they found so much stuff here, relative to over here being Egypt as well.
Isn't the CN Tower?
Yeah, obelisk, yeah. Right, CN Tower. There's one on University. There's an obelisk on University, right? On the island, University and Queen, I think.
I think closer to Dundas, but
yeah. Yeah, right. So the history is all around us. You know?
this in the center of the island.
What is that?
obelisk. It's like that
Like the thing
square
that's in
thing that has the
Washington.
pyramid point at the top of it. It's like straight up.
They have one by the White House too, right?
Yeah, Washington Monument.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? But then also it is also to signify the Roman patriarchy, because it's really Osiris' penis, right? So because the whole story of the penis getting lost when Set or Isis was putting the body back together after Set killed her or whatever, she couldn't find the penis. But then, so they made it a symbolic thing, right? But being that it's a phallic symbol, then it's masculine. Why would they be putting this masculine thing all over the world? Why would there be one of those in St. Peter's Square, the head of the Roman Empire? Why would there be ones here? Why would there be ones in Washington, D.C., again, the capital of whatever? Because they're emulating that concept of the Egyptian pharaoh, whatever. That's why Pope has his little pharaoh hat on or whatever that they call Pope papal stuff, right? But it's really from Kemet. And the idea is to psychologically imprint patriarchal concepts on people. But when you go to those time frames, they were matriarchal, not patriarchal. So they should really have some, women stuff. If they're going to be emulating back then, they should be pushing women figurines and women type stuff, because those times were matriarchal times, not patriarchal, right? So it's just things that they do in order to have control over the energies based on people's ignorance. Because everybody's just going to look at it and, oh, the Washington Monument. Well, that has nothing to do with Washington. Oh, well, St. Peter's Square, that has nothing to do with St. Peter. That's some stuff that is ancient, right? How was the British Moors' relationship with the Moors of Almarak? Did it sour due to Europeans coming over here? Can you explain more about after the fall of Granada, how Moors took the seas over in a major way, piracy, etc.? With regard to those two questions, if you go to Canaanland Moors channel and you watch a video called Taj and Abdullah, something or the other. But just go on the Canaanland Moors, there's a video, Taj and Abdullah, that goes into the whole concept of us being the rulers of the seas, the fact that in the structure of Freemasonry from the top to the bottom, all the titles that they use come from when the quote-unquote divan, D-I-V-A-N, or when the Moors were ruling. And then when the Moors lost power, these people took all the titles from the Moors and then applied them to their lodges or whatever like that in order to, again, jack the energy. So that, we would think that that's nothing to do with us, that has to do with them. When we look at, Egyptian stuff, it's nothing to do with us because we're all the way over here, that's over there, whatever, but they got Cairo here. They got Baghdad over here. They got, Memphis over here. They got all this Egyptian stuff, names, whatever on this side, but people on this side don't want to make a claim to the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, which is theirs. But they're going to claim all the other pyramids and whatever, but they're not going to claim pyramids of Mexico. They're not going to claim pyramids in China. They're not going to claim pyramids in Peru. They're not going to claim pyramids in Bolivia or pyramids anywhere in South America. All they're going to claim is pyramids across the Atlantic. But the world knows that over there is over here. The world knows that the Atlantic Ocean is a mirror. The world knows that the Mississippi River is the Nile of over here. Flows south to north just like the Nile over there. But they disconnect from over here. This is not their home. This is the wilderness of North America and all that stuff. And They have nothing to do with over here. They only have stuff to do with over there, but they're over here. If you're so from over there, why the hell do you go back over there? If you came from Africa on a slave ship, why are you staying in slave master's land? Why don't you go back where you come from? But, you know, if they do that, then, you know, they're not getting no.
I just want to add, like you said in previous classes, that if you have if you have like North Africa and South Africa, then there have to be a West Africa and an East Africa. You can't just have two territories, whereas there has to be a territory of each. It's like you said, and if we were one at one time, over here is North America. I mean North Africa. Or if you want to go back in more de jure names or more ancient names, Amexum, Asia, we were just the north of those ancient names or times or whatever. Like we're all one people. Like, but because of because we're far apart in different atmosphere, we have different attributes as well that distincts us.
Right.
So I mean, but we're all still one, brothers and sisters. Like everybody wants to divide us.
Divide us into
we're all different. We're all the same.
And then that's part of the reason also why the ritual of called Amexum Africa, because the word Africa comes from Farouk, which means to separate.
What about Ethiopia? Doesn't that
dividing line? Yeah. Right. So all these terms that we, you know, as unconscious people gravitate to are really psychological hexes that keep us away from each other or whatever like that. And what Mowuju Ali did by saying that we're Moors was try to bring all that thing together. Whereas then you had the Hebrew Israelites in the 1920s talking about Moorish Jews of Harlem and all that stuff. You had Dr. Malachi York come out and say Nuwapians, Moors and all that, right? Nuwapian Nation of Moors. You had Nation of Islam and all that come out talking about they were members of Moor Santos Temple wearing fezzes and all that. You have Ben Amin come out telling these people that they're not Negro black colored. You have Martin Luther King telling them that, you know, they're in their own land and all that stuff, and you're a slave in your own land and all that, right? Garvey telling them that you are a nation. Everybody's been telling them. You had Black Panthers going to court without a lawyer, beating up on these people with their case about they shot police and all that stuff like that, beating up their cases with no lawyers. Hey, you're not finding no Asiatics going to court with no lawyer that aren't Moors. Only Moors don't hire lawyers. Everybody else, they're going to get a lawyer because they're incompetent. Right? If anybody needed the new Iron Cheek 6 CD, we got some in the back now. So you can pick that up. One more thing before we close, there was somebody a sister put up a post, and she said, now keep in mind all the Negroes calling her sellout and you know, going on their smear campaign against this sister because of what she said. So she said, I'm not black. IDGAF about origins. I'm Dominican. Yes, I know the history of Dominican Republic. No, I don't care. I'm not black. I'm part of the Hispanic Latino community. I'm not part of the black community. I don't care what you gotta say. I don't care if you have an issue with me saying I'm not black. IDGF about opinions. I'm still with Dominican. You know, and then give her a little middle finger to all those people who don't want to realize that they're running a fraud on themselves. You know what I mean? And then you look at the sister, you wouldn't know if she's Dominican if she didn't say something. You think that the black girl. But if you're saying she's not black, then, next logical question, well, what are you? You know what I mean? And then she's admitting that she's Dominican, which means that she's American, which means she's Aboriginal, Indigenous, and everybody who looks like her or darker than her should be making that same claim. And if they're not, either they're incompetent or they work for the other side and their job is to keep you black as ever. Because once you're calling yourself black, you're calling yourself a ward of these colonizers. And once you're their ward, they own you. You have no say. And I know, we're just getting back into the routine. I know today's class went a little longer than usual, but we got our status back and stuff like that. We got our upload power back, so we're gonna make use of it.
So what happened? They just.
Yeah, the time was up for our punishment. Yeah, our punishment. Our punishment was, I think it was supposed to go to November or something. So, we got early parole. We got early parole because, they probably had so much people complaining or whatever. But why you guys do that? So, anybody have any closing comments or questions? Since I know you're here first time, you got any more stuff or you're good right now?
Yeah.
All right. We'll also give you some stuff to leave with before you leave. So let's just close out. This is on to all the Moors online. Peace and love to y'all. Thanks for the support. And
Really? It's so bad. I wanna get books.
we'll just close out. Face the east. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Noble Juali.
Noble Juali.
Islam.
Islam.